Chapter 76, The Dark Crawling Black Zetsu. In the underground filled with the smell of mud, a shadowy creature is crawling in the dark, preparing to do something shadowy. The dark crawling creature is called Black Zetsu. He is a humanoid creature with a pitch black body, or rather, he is actually just a pool of black mud, but sometimes he moves like a humanoid creature. Black Zetsu is actually the spiritual consciousness of Kaguya Otsutsuki, and he claims to be the third son of Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kaguya Otsutsuki gained great power, namely chakra, by swallowing the fruit of the sacred tree. She used the power of the bloodline network to pacify the troubled times and was revered as the goddess of the rabbit. With the blessings and prayers of the people, she gave birth to two heirs. The eldest son, Hago Romo Otsutsuki, is the six-path sage known as the ancestor of the ninja world, and the second son is Hamura Otsutsuki. Kaguya activated the infinite Tsukuyomi to create White Zetsu, but was stopped by her two sons. Eventually, Kaguya was sealed in the moon by Hago Romo and Hamura. However, before being sealed, Kaguya used her will and body to create Black Zetsu, and planned to use Black Zetsu to resurrect herself. Black Zetsu stayed in the ninja world for hundreds of years just to resurrect his mother Kaguya Otsutsuki. At the beginning, Black Zetsu had instigated the relationship between Indra and Ashura, the two sons of the six-path sage. Later, Indra and Ashura were reincarnated separately. In every life so far, Indra has been reincarnated as Uchiha and Ashura has been reincarnated as Senju. Over the past few hundred years, Black Zetsu has been secretly trying to sow discord between the Senju and Uchiha, causing a conflict between the reincarnation of Indra and the reincarnation of Ashura. But unfortunately, every reincarnation before this generation died halfway and had no chance to grow up. Only in this life, the life of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, Ashura and Indra gradually grew up. Black Zetsu has been waiting for them to grow up slowly, and then make the two of them hostile to each other, instigate the relationship between the two, and instigate Indra's reincarnation Uchiha Madara to open the infinite Tsukuyomi, and finally lift the seal and save Otsutsuki Kaguya, who was sealed on the moon. In order to achieve this goal, Black Zetsu has been hiding in the dark, secretly provoking the relationship between the Senju and Uchiha. But in every life, no matter under what circumstances or what circumstances the reincarnations of Indra and Ashura encounter, they will firmly become close friends. Perhaps it is because they were once brothers? If the relationship between the two reincarnations remains so good, Black Zetsu will not be able to achieve his goal of rescuing his mother. Therefore, in order to achieve his goal, Black Zetsu had no choice but to make the two become enemies. This life should be like this as well. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha wanted to protect their younger brother and build a peaceful village. Black Zetsu is about to destroy the future they have envisioned. For this reason, it once intervened in the deaths of Senju Itama and Senju Kawurama, causing the two to die at the hands of the Uchiha clan. Similarly, several of Uchiha Madara's brothers also died at the hands of the Senju clan. Black Zetsu had already arranged everything. He originally thought that things would go according to his script. Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna are rivals because of their similar age, and the two are influenced by hatred, so they are bound to fight to the death. At that time, Black Zetsu will plan to kill Uchiha Izuna, then deceive Uchiha Madara, and finally complete his great cause. But after hiding for a long time, Black Zetsu, who was about to see hope, suddenly found that things seemed to be out of control, like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins. First, the Aki virus broke out inexplicably. It was the first time that Black Zetsu had seen this kind of virus. Although it was finally resolved peacefully, Black Zetsu still felt threatened. He felt that things were getting out of control. What if some inexplicable virus breaks out in the world one day and both Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha are infected? If everyone is infected, who will it use to activate the infinite moon reading? Then, through this Aki virus, Black Zetsu discovered the Senju Kagami River, who had been ignored by him. Black Zetsu knew about the existence of Senju Kagamikawa, but it always thought that Senju Kagamikawa had been imprisoned for many years and was a minor character. But Black Zetsu once saw the Senju Kagamikawa use the breathing of the sun in that small town. That sun-like slash that burst out with brilliant golden flames carried a god-like aura that was a power that definitely did not belong to this world. As soon as Black Zetsu felt that power, he couldn't help but tremble. He felt that his soul was trembling. How can a creature that crawls darkly in the darkness see the sun? Heiju was afraid of Qian Shao Jingchuan's inexplicable power, but because of this power, he did not dare to appear in front of Qian Shao Jingchuan, for fear that he would be destroyed. But how could Black Zetsu just let it go like this? He was afraid that his plan would be broken by Senju Jingchuan, so he decided to eliminate the hidden danger of Senju Jingchuan. It decided to kill with a borrowed knife. If you want to borrow, you have to borrow the Uchiha clan's sword. But Black Zetsu later discovered that Senju Kagamikawa actually had a very good relationship with the two brothers Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna. Moreover, Senju Kagamikawa actually hopes to establish a peaceful country and has even taken action. It saw crops being planted in the Senju Kagamai River, hoping to help the Senju clan break free from the shackles of the daimyo. When Black Zetsu was about to attack Senju Kagawa, he discovered that Senju Kagawa could actually use wood release, the power that can make crops grow. What else could it be but wood release? At that moment, Black Zetsu immediately gave up the idea of destroying Senju Kagamikawa. He thought that since Senju Kagamikawa and Uchiha Izuna were also good friends, the two of them might be backup options for Infinite Tsukuyomi. Therefore, he later designed the deaths of Senju Kawarama and Senju Itama in order to arouse Senju Hashirama and Senju Kagamigawa's hatred towards Uchiha. But unexpectedly, his actions did not make Senju Kagamikawa and Senju Hashirama hate the Uchiha clan, but made them more determined to create peace. Hey Jweki, why does the Ashura lineage desire peace so much? Later, Black Zetsu found that Senju Kagamigawa was not so easy to control, so he decided to provoke a fight between Senju Kagamigawa and Uchiha Izuna, although he has not succeeded until now. But this time, Black Zetsu believed he could succeed. Chapter 77. In the Uchiha clan's territory far away, a gloomy and depressing atmosphere permeated, and the entire Uchiha clan's territory fell into an inexplicable silence. Come on, come over and give me a hand. A typical Uchiha with black hair and dark night clothes dragged a stretcher into the clan territory. There was some blood on his face, his clothes and hair were a little dirty, and his expression looked a little stiff. This was really rare for the delicate and clean Uchiha. The one on the stretcher was also an Uchiha with black hair and white skin, but what was horrifying was that the Uchiha's eyes, which should have been closed, had turned into two black, bloody holes. It was obvious that his eyes had been gouged out. His body was also covered with wounds, and although his breath was weak, he was still alive. What the hell is going on? I don't know how many of them are already. The Uchiha who came to help was carrying a stretcher. When his eyes met the injured person's eyes, he felt a stinging pain in his own eyes and hurriedly looked away. Who knows? Recently, it seems like someone is against the Uchiha. All the Uchiha who went out on missions met with accidents. No one in the tribe dares to go on a mission now. The other Uchiha sighed. Since the first Uchiha was killed a few days ago, dozens of Uchiha have been killed one after another, although most of them were only seriously injured, and only a few clan members with open eyes had their eyes gouged out, but this incident was obviously a conspiracy against the Uchiha. Now the entire Uchiha clan is in panic because of this incident, but no one knows who is behind this. In addition to fear, the other members of the Uchiha clan also hated the instigator of this incident, and anger filled the hearts of every Uchiha clan member. However, these seriously injured Uchiha forgot everything after waking up, including who they fought against and how they were injured. But all the wounds they suffered were penetrating wounds from sharp weapons, making it impossible to identify who the enemy was. The only clue is: a piece of cloth was placed on the body of each seriously injured Uchiha member. A strange pattern was scratched on the cloth with blood. It was a character, but there was a protruding sickle-shaped pattern in the lower right corner of the... Hey, don't worry. The clan leader has already sent Master Izuna to investigate this matter. I'm sure there will be results soon. This is really strange. Do you think, could it be done by Qian Shao? After all, would the Senju really do such a sinister and despicable thing? An Uchiha asked with some doubt. What are you talking about? The Senju have always been at odds with the Uchiha. Who knows how sinister and vicious they are behind the scenes? What an evil Senju clan! Watching several Uchiha clan members gradually walk away, Heizetsu, who was buried in the ground, laughed sinisterly. That's right, this was done by Black Zetsu, with the purpose of provoking a dispute between the Senju and Uchiha. He possessed Fujiwara Terra and deceived the Fire Country daimyo Kiyosu Kashigayama. Kiyosu Kashigayama trusts Fujiwara Terra very much. The reason for this is related to the previous devil virus. In order to invade this world, Muzan Kibutsuji must look for humans with noble status and greed to confuse them, and Kiyosu Kashigayama is a very suitable candidate. Muzan Kibutsuji entered into dreams and fooled many people, including Kiyosu Kashigayama. In order to make Kiyosu Kashigayama believe him, Muzan Kibutsuji even gave Kiyosu Kashigayama the power to make him return to his youth. Fujiwara Tera was also one of Muzan Kibutsuji's followers. He even sacrificed his wife and only son for this. Both Fujiwara no Tera and Kiyosu Kashigayama knew this secret. Therefore, the two of them were like grasshoppers tied to the same rope. After the failure of the operation in the small town of Lightning Country, Muzan Kibutsuji also disappeared completely. Kiyosu Kashigayama was very anxious at the time, fearing that all this was fake, but having returned to his youth, he was unwilling to give up the power that was within his reach. At this time, Black Zetsu possessed Fujiwara Tera and tricked Kiyosu Kashigayama. He said to him, "Sir, you were unable to gain power because of a ninja named Senju Kagawa who interfered." Then, to be on the safe side, Black Zetsu also tampered with Kiyosu Kashigayama's cognition, making Kiyosu Kashigayama firmly believe that only by letting Uchiha fight against the Senju can the Senju Kagamigawa be killed. Thus, a conspiracy against Senju Kagamigawa and Uchiha Izuna began. And now, Uchiha Izuna is on his way to Kiyosu Castle in the Land of Fire. Uchiha Izuna's heart is now filled with mixed feelings, which are very complicated. He feels that his mind is a mess. Just now, the Uchiha spy passed on a message to him, saying that this matter was all planned by the Senju clan and the Fire Country daimyo, and it even has a great relationship with the Senju Kagami River. The first emotion that came to Uchiha Izuna's mind after hearing this was disbelief. Although he and Senju Kagamigawa had only been together for a year, their relationship was very deep. A year of getting along was enough for Uchiha Izuna to understand what kind of person Senju Kagamigawa was. A kid who was sometimes reckless, but somewhat clever, and who would never let down at critical moments. Most importantly, he knew that Senju Kagamigawa had always longed for peace and was kind to everything in the world. Although he found it hard to accept after knowing that his best friend Kagagawa was actually Senju Kagagawa. However, after realizing that people cannot choose which clan they are born into and knowing that Senju Kagawa did not have a good life in the Senju clan in the first 4 years, although Uchiha Izuna did not say it directly on the surface, he had actually forgiven Senju Kagawa from the bottom of his heart. After all, Senju Kagawa did not deliberately deceive him. After being relieved, Uchiha Izuna has been avoiding encountering the Senju Kagami River on the battlefield or in missions. Since then, Uchiha Izuna has never been to the Minamiga River again. During the war between the three clans, Uchiha Izuna was very worried when he learned that his father wanted to join forces with the Hago Romo clan to kill Senju Kagamigawa. After knowing that Senju Kagamigawa was safe, Uchiha Izuna was actually relieved. From then on, Uchiha Izuna knew that he actually still regarded Senju Kagamigawa as a friend. After all, in this chaotic world, it is difficult for geniuses like them to find close friends who share the same interests as them. But today, someone actually said to him, "Ah, your best friend has been lying to you all along. He is not that simple, he has been pretending to be nice to you just to harm your family." Uchiha Izuna, pupils tremble, 3 Megatama pop out at once. "Izuna-kun! Your eyes!" The ninja next to him suddenly spoke in surprise. Only then did Uchiha Izuna feel his eyes sore. Uchiha Izuna's eyes had turned scarlet, with 3 black Megatama spinning at high speed. That's right, under tremendous pressure and pain, Uchiha Izuna went from 2 Megatama to 3 Megatama. Chapter 78. During these few days, Senju Jingchuan stayed in Daimyo Prefecture and did not encounter any assassins. He was pulled out of bed by Senju Tobirama in the morning, and then stayed by the daimyo's side for the rest of the day. At the beginning, Kiyosu Kashigayama and Fujiwara Tera asked him some questions about the town in the Land of Thunder in a roundabout way, but Senju Kagamigawa insisted that he knew nothing. Senju Chinj and several other Senju also kept saying that they knew nothing. So, Kiyosu Kashigayama gradually stopped asking about this matter. Later, Kiyosu Kashigayama still wanted to watch Senju Kagawa perform swordplay from time to time. He said that Senju Kagawa's swordplay that day was so wonderful, so Senju Kagawa performed several times in front of Kiyosu Kashigayama as if practicing swordplay, and won applause from the daimyo's mansion. Occasionally, Senju Kagawa and his companions would perform ninjutsu in front of Kiyosu Kashigayama to liven up the atmosphere. Senju Kagamigawa always felt that he came here not to protect the daimyo, but to be watched as a monkey performing a show. To be honest, Senju Kagamigawa felt that Kiyosu Kashigayama's job as the daimyo was too easy. He didn't worry about the country, handle government affairs, or think about how to develop the economy. Instead, he listened to songs, looked at beauties, and watched ninjutsu every day. There are countless absurd things like this. Senju Kagamikawa felt that he was lucky that no civilian uprising army came to assassinate Kieso Kashigayama. Moreover, although the situation has been very peaceful at present, Senju Jingchuan always feels that something big is going to happen. His eyelids are twitching and his heart is panicking. He always feels that someone is thinking about him. Black Zetsu, yes, that's me. Senju Kagamikawa didn't know what would happen. In addition, Senju Kagamikawa had nightmares and woke up easily at night recently. Senju Kagamikawa was in a bad mood recently, and even Senju Tobirama told him not to think too much. Little brother, don't worry about this. Senju Tobirama pressed Senju Kagawa's temple and said worriedly. Although this matter is very strange, but, we should make the best of it. Maybe it's not that bad after all. Senju Kagawa turned around, with big dark circles under his eyes, and looked at Senju Tobirama with despair, then hugged Senju Tobirama's waist and said. I understand, Tobirama-san. It's just that my eyes haven't been feeling well lately, and my sleep quality hasn't been very good, so I'm a little upset. Senshao Jingchuan was not lying. He did feel sore eyes from time to time during this period, and he didn't know why. However, now that he heard the continuous reminder sound of Tai value +7, Senju Jingchuan's mood improved a lot. Although Senju Jingchuan had no way of predicting what would happen next, what he could do was to grasp the present situation, get more sticky points, and then ensure that he could deal with subsequent accidents. By the way, Tobirama-kun, does that daimyo always look so young? I remember he should be around 40 years old. While Kieso Kashigayama asked them to wait outside the hall, Senju Chinj asked curiously. Senju Momika and Senju Iki also came over. They were relatively young and it was their first time meeting the daimyo, so naturally they didn't know these things. Senju Tobirama thought about it carefully. He had met Kieso Kashigayama during a mission 2 years ago, when Kieso Kashigayama was also as young as he is now. Before that, Senju Tobirama was not old enough to take on such an important mission, and had not met Kieso Kashigayama. Therefore, Senju Tobirama did not know whether Kieso Kashigayama looked like this in the past. He was very young 2 years ago. Said Senju Tobirama. Speaking of this matter, I seem to know some inside information. Qian Shao Qian Tang, who had been silent all the time, suddenly spoke. I've been on a mission in Kieso Castle before. Although I didn't see the daimyo, I heard a lot of stories about the daimyo along the way. One of them was a rumor that the daimyo became younger overnight. Senju Qiantang told the story. After listening to Senju Qiantang's story, Senju Jingchuan suddenly thought of the mural in the small town of the Land of Thunder at that time. Wasn't it about people coming back to life after the dead? And how does the rejuvenation of Kieso Kashigayama relate to this incident? Senju Jingchuan asked the system again. It seemed that because Qian Shao Jingchuan had already guessed it, the system simply confirmed Qian Shao Jingchuan's guess this time. That's right, Kieso Kashigayama did obtain some of the power, but don't worry, that power has been diluted by the world barrier, and the only effect on Kieso Kashigayama is the effect of rejuvenation. Senshao Jingchuan automatically ignored the mute when the system mentioned a certain person's name. His intuition told him that it was not a good thing to say. Ding! When? It was the sound of weapons clashing. Senju Kagamikawa held a kunao and fought against the black-haired and black-eyed Uchiha in front of him. He was a little confused and thought, how did things develop to this point? Senju Kagamikawa never expected that there would actually be Uchiha ninjas coming to assassinate the daimyo, and that these Uchiha ninjas also included his good friend, Uchiha Izuna. Senju Kagamikawa drew out his kunao in a daze to block Izuna's attack, while taking a look at the current situation. 7 against 7, it's just right. There are 7 Uchiha on the opposite side and 7 Senju on this side. The moment Senju Kagamikawa saw Uchiha Izuna, his body involuntarily moved forward and blocked Senju Tobirama's steps to fight Uchiha Izuna. At that time, in order to protect the daimyo, Tobirama Senju fought against another Uchiha while protecting the daimyo, and he did not reject Senju Kagamikawa's actions. The moment Uchiha Izuna saw Senju Kagamikawa, she couldn't help but reveal her 3 Megatama Sharingan, picked up a kunao and started fighting against Senju Kagamikawa. Ah! Izuna-chan, you opened the 3 Megatama Sharingan so quickly. When Senju Kagamikawa saw the 3 Megatama Sharingan displayed by Izuna, he couldn't help but feel like something was choking his throat. If he remembered correctly, during the last war between the 3 clans, Uchiha Izuna had just opened the 2nd Megatama. Yes, Senju Kagamikawa, you didn't expect that I am so talented. Uchiha Izuna was saying this stubbornly, but suddenly he met Senju Kagamikawa's eyes. He felt a little painful for a moment and looked away. Senju Kagamikawa's always gentle black eyes were filled with sadness and heartache. Senju Kagamikawa felt sorry for Uchiha Izuna because he knew the conditions for opening the Sharingan. Chapter 79. Evil Hand? There seemed to be flames burning in Senju Jingchuan's black eyes, and the emotions wrapped in the flames seemed to be able to burn everything. Uchiha Izuna stopped talking nonsense with Senju Kagamikawa. He clenched the kunao in both hands, twisted his wrists violently, and raised the kunao on his fingertips upwards, causing Senju Kagamikawa's sunwheel sword to deflect upwards for a moment and break through Senju Kagamikawa's defense in one go. This is a standard Uchiha style move, using the enemy's force to counter-attack and relying on cleverness to shake the enemy. The kunao went straight towards Senju Jingchuan's face without any hesitation, quickly and efficiently. Senju Kagamikawa's pupils shrank, and he suddenly pushed his head back and downward to avoid the attack. He quickly grasped the Nichiren sword and blocked Uchiha Izuna's kunao, preventing the kunao from moving forward. Ding was the sound of the kunao and the sun sword colliding. When Senju Kagamikawa caught a glimpse of the seriousness in Uchiha Izuna's eyes, he immediately suppressed the complex emotions in his heart and focused his full attention to welcome this battle. This was a respect for this battle and also a respect for Izuna. After noticing Uchiha Izuna's 3 Megatama, Senju Kagamikawa tried his best to avoid looking directly at Uchiha Izuna, so as to prevent himself from being caught in his illusion. Senju Kagamikawa knew very well how poor his resistance to illusions was, and he did not dare to take a gamble. Uchiha Izuna originally wanted to use illusion to confuse Senju Kagawa, but Senju Kagawa didn't even make eye contact with him, so Uchiha Izuna's idea of using illusion came to nothing. But Uchiha Izuna was not going to close his Sharingan. He just kept his eyes wide open, making Senju Kagamikawa afraid to look him in the eye. Just as Uchiha Izuna expected, Senju Kagawa didn't dare to look him in the eye, so his actions were naturally restrained. After all, Senju Kagawa couldn't know Izuna's moves without even looking. After a long time, Senju Kagamikawa gradually fell into a disadvantage and could no longer withstand Uchiha Izuna's attacks. Uchiha Izuna's kunao had already been badly damaged in the fight with Senju Kagamikawa's sunwheel sword. So, Uchiha Izuna simply threw away the kunao that was in the way, took out his own sword, and started a pure swordsmanship competition with Senju Kagamikawa. Wherever Uchiha Izuna chopped, Senju Kagamikawa would block. It looked a bit funny, like a child playing house. When other ninjas saw the two fighting, they would think they were just joking. Uchiha Izuna used the standard Uchiha-style swordsmanship, and Senju Kagamikawa used the Senju-style swordsmanship, although it was not mature. With the Sharingan providing good vision, every move of Senju Kagamikawa seems to be traceable to Uchiha Izuna. For Uchiha Izuna, Senju Kagamikawa's movements were too slow and he could easily find the flaw. Senju Kagamikawa naturally found that every one of his moves was blocked by Uchiha Izuna and was easily broken. The Thousand Hands sword technique focuses on strength and is the type of technique that uses force to defeat force. However, Uchiha's sword technique is specifically designed to counter the sensei's sword technique by leveraging the opponent's force. It is very suitable for dealing with a half-baked person like Senju Kagawa. Uchiha Izuna has obviously gained the upper hand now, but he did not even attack Senju Kagamikawa further. He just maintained the current stalemate, unable to advance or retreat. Senju Tobirama was protecting the daimyo and was fighting with another ninja. The rest of the Senju and Uchiha were also fighting fiercely. In addition, Senju Kagamigawa's place was a blind spot, so they didn't notice the fight between Senju Kagamigawa and Uchiha Izuna, which was like a child's play. They are obviously two ninjas who know ninjutsu, one knows sun breathing, and the other has Sharingan, but these two are here to fight purely with swordsmanship and physical skills? Senju Kagamikawa was really confused now. He thought that Uchiha Izuna was going to kill the daimyo. If the purpose was to assassinate the daimyo, shouldn't Uchiha Izuna knock him down right now, and then take advantage of Senju Tobirama's lack of attention to assassinate the daimyo? But Uchiha Izuna is now fighting here with Senju Kagamigawa, and has not shown any intention to assassinate the daimyo. Senju Kagamikawa saw that Uchiha Izuna didn't seem to have any intention of killing him, so he made up his mind and put down the Nichiren sword that was blocking him. Uchiha Izuna was about to chop down vertically at this moment, and when he saw Senju Kagamikawa suddenly retract his blocking sword, he almost lost control of his own sword. The knife was only 1 millimeter away from Senju Kagawa's shoulder. Uchiha Izuna's pupils were still constricted. He swallowed his saliva, and after he recovered, he suddenly became furious, with a slight tremor in his voice. Senju Jingshuan! Are you crazy? Do you know that you almost died at my hands just now? Senju Kagamikawa raised his eyes and met Uchiha Izuna's Sharingan. He seemed to see some panic in those cold blood-red eyes. I know, Senju Kagamikawa interrupted Izuna's unfinished words. But Izuna-chan, you obviously don't want to fight with me, right? Senju Kagamikawa smiled broadly, his bright black eyes reflecting the sun's rays, making the black appear a little lighter, revealing a bit of tenderness. Uchiha Izuna looked into those eyes and was suddenly speechless. Koizumi, why don't we sit down and have a good chat? What exactly do you Uchiha want to do? Why do you want to assassinate the daimyo of the Land of Fire? Seeing that Uchiha Izuna didn't say anything, Senju Kagamikawa thought that the matter might have a turn for the better, so he quickly took the opportunity to ask. Unexpectedly, Uchiha Izuna became angry after hearing what Senju Kagawa said, and blew out a fire escape. If Senju Kagawa hadn't reacted and used the water array wall in time, he might have turned into a charcoal man now. There's nothing to talk about. You Senju are plotting against me, Uchiha, and you're pretending like you know nothing. Senju Kagamikawa dodged in a cold sweat. When he heard Uchiha Izuna's angry words, he felt that an unexpected disaster had befallen him and the Senju clan. Calculation? The Senju clan plotted against the Uchiha? How come he doesn't know about this? Senju Jingchuan fell into deep confusion. Seeing that Senju Kagamikawa was still pretending to look innocent and confused, Uchiha Izuna was shaken for a moment, but when he thought of the miserable plight of his clan members in the clan's land, anger overwhelmed other emotions. He snorted coldly, and then sneered. Why did I get fooled by you before? I thought you were innocent and cute, but I didn't expect you to be a member of the evil Senju clan. You are still pretending. I already know that it was your Senju clan who did it. Why didn't I think before that you, the Thousand Hands clan, are so vicious? It's not enough to hurt people, you even want to leave marks. The bewildered Qian Shao Jingchuan suddenly grasped something, and suddenly a light bulb went off in his head, and he asked. And many more. Izuna, what mark are you talking about? Is it this mark? Qian Shao Jingchuan took out the white jade pendant that had been placed in the system space, revealing the strange pattern on the back. The moment Uchiha Izuna saw the pattern, his pupils suddenly shrank. Senju Kagamikawa, who was carefully observing Uchiha Izuna's reaction, suddenly understood that it was all because of this pattern. Chapter 80. Revenge. The cool autumn breeze blew by, blowing up a few fallen leaves on the ground, making a rustling sound. There is no other sound in this place except the sounds of nature. The Senju and Uchiha stood face to face, and it could be seen that there was some embarrassment on their faces. Kiyosu Kazugayama was sleeping on the ground nearby. He was leaning against a big tree, frowning, and looked like he was not sleeping well. Brother Yushu, Brother Qingshan, do you two want to take the daimyo back to the castle tower first? Senju Jingchuan looked at these people standing there without saying a word, and couldn't help but speak out. What they are going to say next may not be suitable for others to hear. Although Uchiha Izuna has just cast an illusion on Kiyosu Kazugayama, he is still a little worried that Kiyosu Kazugayama will wake up in the middle of it. After all, Kiyosu Kazugayama still has the power of the Demon King from another world, although it is very weak. What are you afraid of? Don't you believe in my illusion? Uchiha Izuna turned his head and glanced at Kiyosu Kazugayama, standing with his arms folded, his expression revealing a hint of dissatisfaction. What a cocky expression! Senju Kagamikawa complained in his mind. Haha, I just want to be on the safe side. Senju Jingchuan muttered softly. Uchiha Izuna glared at Senju Kagamikawa, then turned his head to the other side, clearly showing an attitude of out of sight, out of mind. Senju Kagawa took this opportunity to signal Senju Kazuki and Senju Aoyama with his eyes, asking them to take Kiyosu Kazugayama back as soon as possible. Senju Aoyama and Senju Iki walked hesitantly to Kiyosu Kashigayama's side, and the two of them carefully lifted him up together. Seeing that Kiyosu Kashigayama didn't move, they glanced at Uchiha Izuna, and seeing that Uchiha Izuna seemed to agree, they silently carried Kiyosu Kashigayama away. So, what should we do now? Senju Kagamikawa looked left and right and saw that Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna were both silent. They each crossed their arms and turned their heads to look to the sides. The other Senju and Uchiha looked at the sky, the earth, the trees, and the grass, but didn't look at the three Senju Kagawas in the center. Senju Jingchuan didn't know what to say at the moment, so he just remained silent along with them. How did the present situation come about? This has to do with the fact that Senju Kagamikawa used his unique mouth-to-mouth technique in the middle of the battle with Uchiha Izuna, which made Uchiha Izuna waver. In order to verify their guess, Senju Kagawa and Uchiha Izuna took advantage of Senju Tobirama's inattention and slipped behind Kiyosu Kashigayama. The moment Kiyosu Kashigayama turned his head after hearing the noise, Uchiha Izuna showed his Sharingan without saying a word and cast an illusion on Kiyosu Kashigayama. At that moment, the whole place was silent. Then, Uchiha Izuna used the power of the Sharingan hypnosis plus illusion, to get the whole story from Kiyosu Kashigayama. It turns out that this incident against the Uchiha clan was a scheme of Kiyosu Kashigayama and Fujiwara Tera from the beginning to the end. Kiyosu Kashigayama designed this incident and attempted to put the blame on the Senju clan, trying to provoke deeper conflicts between the Senju and Uchiha clans. As for the deeper reasons, Kiyosu Kashigayama did not reveal them due to the suppression of the world barrier, but Senju Kagawa already knew them through the system. When Uchiha Izuna heard that it was Kiyosu Kashigayama who did it, she almost stabbed Kiyosu Kashigayama and ended his life directly. But Senju Tobirama was more rational and stopped Uchiha Izuna's actions. Now was not the time for Kiyosu Kashigayama to die. If a daimyo of a country died suddenly, the top leaders of the fire country would experience a round of political turmoil anyway, which might lead to a bigger war. In short, although Senju Kagamigawa and Uchiha Izuna were rather reckless this time, they still got a good ending. The misunderstanding between Senju and Uchiha about this matter was finally resolved. Time returns to the present. Qian Shao Jingchuan said. Anyway, let me put forward my point of view first. The other people present turned their eyes to Senju Kagawa, silently preparing to listen to him. The best way at the moment is to keep the status quo. So, in Kiyosu Kashigayama's opinion, his calculations this time should indeed have provoked a conflict between the Senju and Uchiha. From now on, it has nothing to do with you Uchiha. The rest will be left to me and Tobirama. A smile appeared on Senju Jingchuan's lips. He lowered his head slightly, and his slightly long bangs slightly covered his eyes. His black pupils seemed to flash an evil red light, revealing a hint of ominous feeling. The other people present all felt a chill on their backs, and felt that Senju Jingchuan looked very evil. Host, are you angry? The system suddenly asked. That's right, Senju Kagamikawa is actually very angry now about Kiyosu Kashigayama's instigation of sowing discord between the Senju and Uchiha. When Kiyosu Kashigayama did this, he never considered the possible consequences of this matter. He just wanted to consolidate his position and achieve his own goals. Although I can't kill Kiyosu Kashigayama, but... Senju Kagawa thought, Kiyosu Kashigayama must pay some price, right? Otherwise, it would be really unfair to those Uchiha who were plotted against, and also to the souls who died under the scheme of Kiyosu Kashigayama. A dark and windy night, a day of murder and arson. However, Senju Jingchuan did not come here tonight to kill people. He squatted carefully on the roof of Kiyosu Kashigayama's room, lifted up a tile, and reached his hand in. No one could see that a wisp of green smoke gradually floated out from the fingertips of Senju Kagawa's fingertips that reached into the room, and slowly but firmly and steadily floated into the nose of Kiyosu Kashigayama. Kiyosu Kashigayama, who had been sleeping on the bed for half a day, seemed to feel something, frowned slightly, and groaned in pain. System, you said that this smoke will change Kiyosu Kashigayama's perception of this matter, and from now on, whenever he sleeps, he will dream about those people he killed, and fall into an endless nightmare, right? Senju Kagawa asked in his mind one last time. That's right, host, don't worry, the system's products are of guaranteed quality. The system replied in a firm tone. The system knew that Senju Kagamikawa was very angry, so it suggested that the system mall had products that could clean up Kiyosu Kashigayama. Isn't this just like someone brings him a pillow when he feels sleepy? Senju Kagamakuwa immediately placed an order passionately, exchanging for this smoke that could tamper with some cognition, but this smoke could not exceed the worldview too much after all, so the greatest effect of this smoke was to change Kiyosu Kageyama's cognition of this matter, and not to interfere in the affairs of the Senju clan in the future, and to have nightmares every day. By the way, Kiyosu Kageyama will forget everything about the evil ghost after tonight, and will no longer cause trouble for Senju Kagamigawa because of this matter. Chapter 81. The Sharingan is so terrifying. Senju Jingchuan smiled sinisterly and was in an extremely good mood. He was just about to go back to sleep, but when he turned around he found a figure standing behind him. The figure had long white hair, white clothes, and deep red eyes, which looked quite scary against the backdrop of the night. Combined with this scene, on a dark and windy night, Senju Jingchuan was frightened to the point of breaking out in a cold sweat. His body trembled violently, then he relaxed after realizing who the person was, but he was still scared. Senju Kagawa complained a little, "Brother Tobirama, why are you walking without making any sound? You didn't even tell me you were coming. It's really scary." Apart from anything else, Senju Jingchuan still has some natural fear of some unspeakable supernatural creatures in his previous life. Senju Jingchuan was often threatened by the aunts and sisters in the orphanage using the excuse of ghosts. Therefore, even though he grew up in a materialistic socialist country, Senju Jingchuan still stayed away from such supernatural creatures when he grew up. Therefore, when Senju Kagawa discovered that Senju Tobirama was standing silently behind him, his reaction was so big. Senju Tobirama crossed his arms across his chest and did not respond to Senju Kagamakuwa's words. Instead, he asked directly, "Little brother, what are you doing sneaking around on the roof of the daimyo's room so late at night?" "Hehe, a secret." Senju Jingchuan smiled mischievously, with a hint of cunning in his eyes. Senju Tobirama obviously didn't want to waste time talking to Senju Kagawa. Hearing that Senju Kagawa didn't explain at all, Senju Tobirama simply took 2 steps forward, approached Senju Kagawa, and then with one hand he picked up Senju Kagawa horizontally. There was no other way, after all, there was a big height difference between Senju Kagawa and Senju Tobirama, and his strength was not as good as Senju Tobirama's, so Senju Kagawa had no power to fight back at all. Things happened in a flash, and before Senju Kagawa could react, he was picked up horizontally by Senju Tobirama. After reacting, Senju Jingchuan kicked his legs symbolically, grabbed the air a few times with his hands, and then became as quiet as a chicken. He didn't want to call other people over to see him like this. After Senju Tobirama put the tile back to its place, he took Senju Kagamakuwa back to his room. "Brother, the method you mentioned today, is it going to be done in such a sneaky way at night?" Although Senju Tobirama asked a question, he actually used a statement tone. "Ah, don't worry, Tobirama-san. Kiyosu Kageyama will definitely not remember what happened today." "Oh no." Before Senju Kagawa could finish his words, Senju Tobirama hit him on the head with his bent fingers, and Senju Kagawa cried out in pain. "Brother Tobirama, why did you hit me?" Senju Kagawa complained dissatisfiedly. He was clearly doing the right thing. Unexpectedly, Senju Tobirama's expression was very serious at this time, and he said, "Brother, is what you did harmful to yourself? Also, is it harmful to the daimyo? You need to know." "Brother Tobirama, don't worry. This incident has no effect on me. Don't worry, nothing serious will happen to the daimyo. At most, he will continue to have nightmares. But, after all, this smoke was obtained by consuming a full 1000 sticker points of Senju Kagamigawa, so naturally it would not make Kiyosu Kageyama's life so comfortable." After hearing what Senju Kagawa said, Senju Tobirama was silent for a while, and after a long time, he sighed slightly, put his hand on Senju Kagawa's white hairy head and rubbed it hard twice, and said viciously, "Don't do this again next time. After all, there must be some price to pay for using this strange power, right?" Senju Kagamakuwa was stunned. He didn't expect Senju Tobirama to say that. It was obvious that he had guessed something. When Senju Tobirama saw Senju Kagawa's slightly stunned expression, he felt a bit sour in his heart. He was obviously the older brother, but he had to let his younger brother, who was a few years younger than him, to protect him and bear a certain price, while he could only watch and could do nothing. This feeling of powerlessness is really uncomfortable. "Hey brother Tobirama, there is no price, but, if you want to compensate me, then let me stay with you more. Senju Kagawa grabbed Senju Tobirama's other hand, and continued. Brother Tobirama, since it's already so late, I'll sleep with you today. Senju Kagamikawa blinked at Senju Tobirama. Since Kiyosu Kashigayama wasted his 1000 points, he would make up for it tonight with the help of Senju Tobirama. Also, don't address me by my first name anymore. Oh, I get it, Tobirama-san, please stop pinching my face, it hurts. Don't pinch it. Don't pinch it. Hiss, it's all red. On the second day, Senju Kagawa stood beside Kiyosu Kashigayama, and just like in the previous days, he did not show any sign of abnormality. However, after seeing the dark circles under Kiyosu Kashigayama's eyes and his tired expression as if he hadn't slept for several days, Senju Kagawa couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Kiyosu Kashigayama was awakened by a nightmare this morning. After waking up, he was sweating all over and was soaked, as if he had just been pulled out of the water. He felt like he was being chased, scolded, bitten and hurt by something, and there was still an inexplicable dull pain in his body, making it difficult for him to distinguish between dreams and reality. Even after waking up, Kiyosu Kashigayama completely forgot what kind of nightmare he had. He only remembered that the deep and intense fear deeply consumed his soul, and the malice was stickily attached to his spirit. After the fright, Kiyosu Kashigayama felt extremely tired, as if his spirit had been sucked away by something, and he lost interest in anything. Kiyosu Kashigayama is very puzzled now, but he just thinks that it might be a terrible nightmare. Little does he know that what is waiting for him later will be a deeper and heavier nightmare that will stick to him until he returns to the Pure Land. In addition, Kiyosu Kashigayama is now very confused about why he invited Senju Kagawa and others over. He was already very tired, and now he was even more troubled by how to send Qian Shao Jingchuan and the others back. After much deliberation, Kiyosu Kashigayama directly gave Senju Kagawa and his companions a lot of treasures, and then let them go. The other Senju except Senju Kagamigawa and Senju Tobirama are also very confused now. How come after not seeing them for one night, Kiyosu Kashigayama was so polite to them and gave them so many gifts? Didn't he want to use them before? After much thought, they felt that perhaps only Uchiha's eye technique could explain this phenomenon. Uchiha Sharingan is so terrifying. It can actually change people's cognition. In short, I don't know what outrageous rumors about the Uchiha evil theory will spread from the Senju clan after today. Chapter 82, Fierce Battle Between the Two Parties. It was the sound of a sharp weapon piercing flesh. Thorn. It was the sound of a knife colliding with a sharp weapon, with a teeth-grinding taste. Uchiha Izuna used his sword to force back the enemy in front of him, and then chopped hard at the arm of the ninja in front of him. However, a spike suddenly appeared on the ninja's arm, blocking Uchiha Izuna's knife. Uchiha Izuna wanted to pull the knife out, but the knife was stuck by the intertwined bones. In an instant, the surrounding Kagaya and Hago Romo ninjas rushed forward and rushed towards Uchiha Izuna, who was in the center. Hey, what on earth is going on here? Senju Jingchuan pressed down the corner of his mouth, and stared at the enemy in front of him with a bad look. The opposing ninjas were divided into two waves. One wave wore forehead protectors with the feathered clan emblem printed on them, and the other wave had all white hair, pale skin without a trace of blood, and thin bodies, like patients who had been ill for a long time. Senju Tobirama gritted his teeth and said solemnly, "It's Yui and Kagaya." They were now on their way to the Senju clan's territory, not far from Nanhi River, and were already at their doorstep, but they had not expected that they would be ambushed here. However, they were ambushed by the Hago Romo and Kagaya clans who had formed an alliance at some unknown time. Upon hearing this, Qian Shao Jingchuan frowned deeply and his expression became serious. He has been an official ninja for a long time, how could he not know the characteristics of Kagaya ninja, who are a clan with a special bloodline limit, the corpse bone vein? The so-called corpse bone vein is to turn all the bones in the body into weapons. Their bones are very hard. However, because this bloodline carries with it a very serious bloodline disease, Kagaya's ninjas have always acted very low-key. Even so, no blind ninja has ever dared to provoke their clan. When did the Hago Romo and Kagaya clan form an alliance? How come the Kagaya clan also likes Hago Romo? Senju Kagawa said with a tone of disdain in order to trick her into believing something. You, one of the ninjas in Yui, could not hold back his temper. Why bother talking to him? Another feathered ninja stopped the man from saying anything and glared at Senju Kagawa viciously. On the Kagaya ninja side, the leader seemed to have been looking closely at Senju Kagamikawa. After hearing his voice, he ignored the farce of the Hago Romo ninja and just asked Senju Kagamikawa. Are you Senju Kagawa? Senju Kagamikawa's heart sank. It seemed that these Hyuga ninjas were targeting him. Senju Tobirama suddenly blocked the Senju Kagami River behind him, and also blocked Kagaya ninja's view of the Senju Kagami River. There are quite a lot of people. There are actually 8 of them, dressed like this. Are half of the top fighters of the Kagaya ninja clan here? Senju Tobirama's heart tightened. 8 Kagaya ninjas, plus several Hago Romo ninjas, it would be really hard for them to fight. What's more, due to some reasons, Senju Kazuki, Senju Aoyama and Senju Chinj did not go with them. Currently, there are only 4 ninjas fighting against the opposing ninjas, Senju Kagawa, Senju Tobirama, Senju Momika and Senju Chito. Senju Kagamikawa did not answer, but the feathered ninja beside him quickly answered. Yes. He is Senju Kagamikawa, the Thousand Hands medical ninja who can bring the dead back to life. The Kagaya ninja was not angry even though his vision was blocked. He smiled and said, there is a head of white hair, which is destined to be with us. Since you can revive the dead, then blood diseases should be no problem, right? The purpose is very clear. The purpose of this Kagaya ninja is to capture Senju Kagamikawa and take him back to cure their bloodline disease. Senju Kagawa said, since you want to cure the blood disease, why not cooperate with Senju? Why do you need to capture me? It will be a waste of effort. Unexpectedly, after hearing what Senju Kagamikawa said, the Kagaya ninja not only did not think about it, but became furious instead. The Kagaya ninja's expression suddenly became ferocious, and he said in a very paranoid tone. I don't believe in cooperation. If I catch you, won't you just treat the blood disease obediently? The expression of the Kagaya ninja was very crazy, and he looked mentally unstable, as if he was going to seize the Senju Kagami River by force. The feathered ninja on the side was even swearing, and his words clearly implied that he treated Senju Kagamikawa as an object without independent consciousness. Senju Qiantang on the side couldn't stand it anymore after hearing these words, and rushed towards the man with bad words named Yui at an extremely fast speed, smashed his head with a punch, and then she did the same to Kagaya beside her. Earth Style, Earth Wall is the ninjutsu of the Hago Romo ninja. A wall of earth stood in the direction where Qianshao Qiantang was moving, and that heavy punch smashed through the wall. What a pity that you escaped, Qianshao Qiantang snorted coldly. War is about to break out. Senju Tobirama cheered for Senju Qiantang in his heart. He had been unhappy with that feathered ninja for a long time. He saw that he had no real strength but still dared to complain. The Thousand Hands had no intention of retreating. Each of them was filled with rage and rushed directly towards the enemy opposite them. The leading Kagaya ninja swung his bone sword horizontally with a clear goal. Senju Kagawa suddenly dodged his neck backwards. Then the Kagaya ninja made another diagonal stab. Senju Kagawa used his palm as a blade to slash at his hand holding the bone spur and blocked the attack. Then Senju Jingchuan turned his hand and grabbed his bone sword. Flames poured out from Senju Jingchuan's hand and rushed directly towards Kagaya's face. The skin on the Kagaya ninja's shoulder suddenly exploded, revealing a series of white bone spurs that covered his face. The flame of Qianshao Jingchuan, which usually seemed to be able to burn everything, was always invincible, but now it seemed to have encountered a considerable obstacle and was deflated. On the other side, Senju Qiantang's behavior just now obviously aroused the anger of Yui and Kagaya. Kagaya, who was almost hit by Senju Qiantang's punch just now, rushed towards Senju Qiantang without hesitation. Senju Qiantang reacted very quickly, punching out with both fists quickly, using the power of Senju to continuously hit the upper body of Kagaya ninja. However, after the ninja on the opposite side reacted, the bones on his back suddenly broke through the barrier of the skin and quickly wrapped around his chest, forming a hard protective sheath. Qianshao Qiantang's fist landed heavily on the ring bone. Qianshao Qiantang's extraordinary strength was not able to break the bone at this time. What a hard bone this is! Suddenly, the bones that were like a protective sheath retracted behind the body, revealing the 24 ribs on the chest that were ready to move. The ribs were like spikes and pointed straight at Qianshao Qiantang's fist. Qianshao Qiantang couldn't stop his hand for a moment and punched straight up. Puff! The sound of skin and flesh piercing. Qianshao Qiantang's hands were now completely unusable, his finger bones were broken and his palms were pierced through. Chapter 83. The Sun God descends into the world. Water style. Water continuous bullet. Senju Tobirama quickly formed a seal and used water style to attack Kaguya in front of him, instantly disrupting the enemy's offensive pace. Then, Senju Tobirama used the water style, water array wall without hesitation. A huge wall made of water rose into the sky and protected the injured Senju Chitang. Senju Momika, who was closer, also quickly ran to Senju Chitang and took her away from the combat area. After seeing that Senju Chito was injured, Senju Kagawa used the sun-breathing 7th form Yanghua thrust without hesitation to thrust forward. At the same time, a large amount of flames appeared around his body. He quickly broke away from Kaguya's encirclement, slowed down his breathing, increased his speed, and ran to the side of Senju Chito. Then, Senju Jingchuan performed healing magic on Senju Qiantang's hands with lightning speed. In an instant, Qian Shao Qiantang's broken finger bones grew and recovered again, and his hands quickly returned to their original white and slender appearance. After witnessing Senju Kagawa's miraculous healing technique with her own eyes, the Kaguya ninja on the opposite side became even more excited, just like a shark that has found its bleeding prey. The look in her eyes, she wanted to tear Senju Kagawa into pieces and swallow him into her stomach. Sister Qiantang, it seems that the Thousand Hands supernatural power is useless against the bones of these Kaguyas. Their bones are too hard and sharp. Senju Kagamikawa said as he continued to use the sun breathing to deal with the enemy. Ah! Jingchuan-kun, please fight to your heart's content. From now on, I will be responsible for your defense. Qian Shao Qiantang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with confidence. Senju Kagamikawa used the strange body skills of sun breathing to move among the Kaguya ninjas. Senju Qiantang saw the opportunity and used earth escape to create layer upon layer of defense for Senju Kagamikawa. Although Kaguya's bones were very sharp and hard, enough to break through this layer of earth escape, the buffering effect of earth escape on the attack was enough for Senju Kagamikawa to react and quickly counter-attack. It can only be said that Senju Qiantang is worthy of being the top ninja in the Senju clan who is famous for her defensive ability. Her control of timing is extremely precise, and she seems to be able to predict the enemy's trajectory in advance. Moreover, her earth escape will not affect Senju Jingchuan's actions at all. This defense is simply the icing on the cake. The cooperation between Tobirama Senju and Momika Senju against the enemy was also very smooth. After all, the two had cooperated with each other many times before. The ninja Inyuyi was not to be feared and was quickly killed by several people. The increasingly tacit cooperation among them also gave the opposing Kaguya ninja a huge headache, especially since they had Senju Kagamikawa, a cheating weapon who could perform healing techniques. Among them, with the existence of Senju Kagamikawa, Senju's side almost had no injuries or fatigue. The battle situation began to turn in favor of Qian Shao Jingchuan and his men. Several Hyuga ninjas formed a circle, and in the middle was Uchiha Izuna with black hair and black eyes. However, Uchiha Izuna was now covered in wounds, with several holes in his body caused by bone spurs, and several deep blood marks on his body. Blood flowed out from Uchiha Izuna's wound, and then dripped onto the grass drop by drop. The ground where he was standing was already dyed red with blood. Uchiha Izuna's eyes were already shedding tears of blood, and his 3 Megatama Sharingan had turned back into normal black pupils. He felt his eyes were now extremely sore, and coupled with the sequelae of excessive blood loss, he could no longer see clearly what was in front of him. His sword had already fallen somewhere long ago, the kunao and shuriken in his hand had been used up, and his chakra was almost gone. Although the Kaguya ninjas who surrounded him were also injured, their condition seemed to be much better than that of Uchiha Izuna. This really looks like a living Shura field on earth. Am I going to die here in such a cowardly way today? Uchiha Izuna laughed at herself in her heart. I didn't expect that I would be left alone and be besieged by Kaguya's ninjas. It seems that the conspiracy against the Senju and Uchiha also involved the intervention of the Hago Romo and Kaguya clans. Even in this critical situation, Uchiha Izuna was still analyzing the matter. It's just a pity I wasn't able to take a few more Kaguya with me before I died, Uchiha Izuna thought with some regret. At the same time, the Kaguya ninjas who surrounded him seemed to have had enough of his miserable condition and rushed towards him together. 10 fingers pierced the bullet. The finger bones of all the Kaguya ninjas suddenly broke through the skin barrier and rushed towards Uchiha Izuna. Uchiha Izuna wanted to resist, but at this time he had lost the strength to resist. I really can't accept this. Uchiha Izuna could only watch the bone spurs rushing towards him from all directions, from top to bottom, almost from all directions without any blind spots. Izumi Na. Suddenly a familiar voice was heard. The voice was extremely hoarse, as if the voice had used up all the strength in the body, but it made Uchiha Izuna feel like a long-awaited rain, and he suddenly regained some strength. The next second, water waves surged up into the sky, providing a buffer for the bone spurs that rushed over, and a wave of spatial fluctuations reached Uchiha Izuna. It turned out that Senju Kagemikawa teleported to Uchiha Izuna's side in an instant. Senju Kagemikawa quickly used Breathing of the Sun 11th form dance of the dragon head of the solar corona, and swung the sun wheel sword rapidly in all directions, instantly launching high-speed continuous slashes, blocking all the bone spurs outside his body. In the eyes of others, Senju Jingchuan now looked like the sun god, with golden red flames surrounding his body, and the flame on the tip of the knife formed the shape of a dragon head. His black pupils revealed a hint of golden red, as if they were reflecting the flames. Why is he here? The Kagaya ninja on the side jumped out of the attack range of the fire and shouted in shock. He wasn't caught. Before he finished speaking, Senju Tobirama and his men, who had followed closely, started fighting with the Kagaya ninjas. Senju Kagemikawa put away his sword and first used a healing spell on Uchiha Izuna, but for some reason, although the wounds on his body were healed, Uchiha Izuna's eyes were still sore and there was no improvement at all. While fighting with the Kagaya ninja, Tobirama Senju also took the time to glance at Senju Kagemikawa. When he saw that Senju Kagemikawa was actually treating his old enemy Uchiha Izuna, he couldn't help but reveal a look of disappointment. Senju Tobirama, little brother. You are confused. It must be Uchiha Izuna who has confused my obedient, gentle, and lovely little brother. The evil Uchiha. However, although he was unhappy, Tobirama Senju still stopped Kagaya who were about to attack Senju Kagemikawa and Uchiha Izuna, allowing them to concentrate on their treatment. Chapter 84. The Golden Giant. Thank you. After Uchiha Izuna felt that his injuries were gradually healing and the fatigue in his body was gradually disappearing, he thanked Senju Kagawa somewhat awkwardly. He is obviously a few years older than Senju Kagemikawa, but he always asks Senju Kagemikawa to help him. It's so embarrassing. Come to think of it, Senju Kagemikawa has helped Izuna many times, right? Are your eyes okay? Senju Kagemikawa noticed the tears of blood flowing from Uchiha Izuna's eyes. From the beginning it was really hard not to notice, after all, there were two bright bloodstains hanging on the white face. If it weren't for the fact that Uchiha Izuna's eyes were still hanging in the eye sockets, he would have thought he was late again. Hey Uchiha Izuna, now that your injury has healed, don't sit there pretending to be sick. Come and help. Senju Tobirama urged Uchiha Izuna as soon as he finished using a water dragon bullet. He really couldn't bear to see his younger brother having a good relationship with the Uchiha people. Of course, in addition to this, there must be the reason of lack of combat power. After all, there are 5 Kagaya standing on the opposite side, and without the combat power of Senju Kagemikawa and Uchiha Izuna, he is basically attacked from both sides. After hearing this, Uchiha Izuna pulled out a kunai from Senju Kagemikawa's ninja tool bag and jumped into the battlefield without saying a word. Senju Kagemikawa, holding his forehead and smiling bitterly, Tobirama-san is really. Seeing this, Senju Jingchuan naturally quickly picked up the sun blade and jumped back into the battle. Senju Jingchuan first quickly entered the battle situation with the strange body movement of Sun Breathing Form 4, Phantom Sun Rainbow, and then quickly thrust forward with Sun Breathing Form 7, Yang Hua Thrust. The Kagaya ninja in front of him was also a battle-hardened ninja, so when the flames of the Senju Kagamai River began to approach him, he reacted quickly and used the dance of the corpse vein willow. Like willow catkins moving in the wind, the bones in his body moved quickly to dissolve the enemy's attacks. He then fought against Senju Kagawa using gentle physical techniques without any unnecessary movements and a series of attacks launched by his bones. 5 against 5. Senju Jingchuan took the time to glance at the situation on the battlefield in his spare time. Of course, 5 refers to Kagaya who has not lost the ability to move. There are also countless corpses of Hago Romo on the ground and 2 Kagaya who have lost the ability to move. One has completely lost her breath, and the other seems to be completely trapped in Uchiha Izuna's illusion and has not yet woken up. His Uchiha Sharingan is so terrifying. Senju Kagawa thought in his heart, fortunately he is Uchiha Izuna's comrade this time. The bloodline limit is indeed unreasonable, such a terrifying and domineering power. Ugly, thank you so much. Qian Shao Jingchuan responded to Ugly in his heart. If the ugly monster hadn't used his spatial talent just now, Senju Jingchuan might not have been able to save Izuna. After all, this is a team battle, and Senju Kagamikawa cannot use water escape and fire to create large-scale smoke. Therefore, he can only borrow the ugly monster's spatial ability and his own body skills to confuse the Kaguya in front of him. The Kaguya ninja in front of him felt that the Senju Kagamikawa was like a slippery loach that he couldn't catch at all. In fact, Senju Kagawa's swordsmanship is really a double-edged sword for a bloodline like the Shikatsu that requires close contact. Kaguya can only use her own bone sword to fight against Senju Kagawa's sword. But although the bone sword was hard, it could not get close to Qian Shao Jingchuan. In addition, Senju Kagamikawa is short and agile, so the Kaguya ninja has no way to hurt Senju Kagamikawa. Whenever Kaguya ninja approached the Senju Mirror River, the Senju Mirror River would suddenly move away, which almost made Kaguya collapse. Even in his spare time, Senju Kagamigawa jumped to the side of Kaguya, who was fighting with Uchiha Izuna, and fired a water dragon bullet at Kaguya with lightning speed. Although the power of the water dragon bullet was not as strong as that of Senju Tobirama, it soaked Kaguya's whole body. It's now. Izuna Senju Kagamikawa shouted. Ah, I understand. Uchiha Izuna responded, obviously understanding what Senju Kagamikawa meant. At the moment when Kaguya was drenched, Uchiha Izuna used lightning release without hesitation. Although the bones of the corpse bone vein could not conduct lightning, Kaguya's entire body was soaked in water, and when the lightning touched him, it covered his entire body in an instant. Unfortunately, Kaguya was paralyzed. Kaguya, whose whole body was numb and unable to use her strength, stared at Uchiha Izuna fiercely, but because she had no strength, she was completely unable to control her bones to protect herself, and she died in the next second. But Qian Shao Qiantang was not so lucky. The extraordinary strength and defense of the thousand hands that she relied on were completely suppressed in front of this group of Kaguyas, and if she was not careful she would be scratched by the bone spurs and covered in scars. When fighting with Kaguya, Tobirama Senju had to help her from time to time. Unfortunately, Kaguya on Senju Kagamigawa's side seemed to suddenly come to her senses. She used a new move and was able to hold down both Senju Kagamigawa and Uchiha Izuna by herself. Senju Jingchuan was completely unable to extricate himself this time. The situation seemed to be going wrong. Kamigawa, go help the second Senju. Izuna suddenly spoke. Senju Kagawa saw that Senju Tobirama was attacked from all sides, so after hesitating for a moment, he went to help Senju Tobirama. Kaguya here with Senju Tobirama was also very difficult to deal with. It seemed that all of a sudden, the Kaguya ninjas had come to their senses and used a new corpse bone vein ninjutsu. One of Kaguya's bone spurs entangled Senju Tobirama and Senju Kagawa. The bone spur was as flexible as a snake and completely stuck Senju Kagawa's sun blade. However, corresponding to this, after using this move, Kaguya's already pale face now turned even grayer, as if her vitality had been taken away. It seems that this is a technique that costs vitality. At this moment, Uchiha Izuna only felt that his eyes were getting more and more painful, and it even affected his fighting a little. He was forced to retreat further and further by the Kaguya in front of him. Behind him were the two Kaguyas who were lying on the ground. Uchiha Izuna suddenly felt that there was something malicious behind him, as if it was stuck on his back, which was very uncomfortable. But he just seized the opportunity and strangled Kaguya in front of him in that instant, and he had no time to care about the situation behind him. In a corner that Uchiha Izuna couldn't see, Kaguya's eyes, which were under the illusion, suddenly became clear, with deep malice. The next second, Kaguya, who had been under the illusion, suddenly jumped up, and the bone spurs on her arms spiraled towards Uchiha Izuna's chest. Senju Kagamikawa was now facing Uchiha Izuna and happened to see this scene. He wanted to move directly to Uchiha Izuna's side, but was stuck by the flexible bone spurs in a panic. The bone spurs pierced his arms, making it impossible for him to move over. Izuna he could only shout in vain. Uchiha Izuna felt the malice behind him, but in an instant he was suddenly bound by some sticky and disgusting thing and could not move at all. However, the Senju Kagawa who was facing him saw clearly. A dark and sticky substance suddenly gushed out of Kaguya's body, wrapping Uchiha Izuna in an instant. The next second, the spiral bone spur was about to touch Uchiha Izuna. Senju Jingchuan suddenly felt a sharp pain in his eyes. It seemed as if something sprouted from Senju Jingchuan's body and then gathered in his eyes, and his eyes suddenly burst out with powerful power. The next second, a huge golden giant rose from the ground and protected Uchiha Izuna like a guardian. Chapter 85, Hand with Sharingan. At this time and in this place, there was complete silence. The golden giant rose from the ground in an instant, took Uchiha Izuna into his territory, protected her, and slapped the resurrected Kaguya away. The world before Senju Jingchuan's eyes had never been so clear. He could clearly see the texture of the leaves fluttering in the air. Even, everything in the world seemed to have slowed down at half the speed in his eyes. Therefore, if there is anything wrong, Qian Shao Jingchuan can see it clearly. The moment the golden giant appeared, Senju Kagamakuwa was sure that he saw some kind of black, sticky and disgusting creature slipping away from under the resurrected Kaguya ninja as if it was shedding its skin, and was even about to completely escape his sight. How could Senju Kagamakuwa just let go of something suspicious that almost killed Uchiha Izuna? When the chakra in his body surged violently towards his eyes, Senju Jingchuan seemed to be able to communicate with his eyes. At that moment, his eyes could not wait to tell Senju Jingchuan their names. They were surging wildly, clamoring wildly about their existence. They are the Mangekyo Sharingan of Senju Kagamakuwa. When the three Megatama suddenly connected to form a black sun pattern, an unprecedented new power followed. The power of Senju Jingchuan is that it transcends time and space. That's right, the so-called space-time is time and space. His left eye is named Tenno Michuyu, which has the ability to travel through time, his right eye is named Yuzuming, which has the ability to travel through space. If these two abilities were combined into one, Senju Jingchuan would be almost invincible. However, Senju Jingchuan felt that due to his age, his body could not fully bear the burden of the Mangekyo, and he could not keep his eyes open for a long time. Moreover, forcibly using these two abilities would have very serious sequelae. Of course, this was only for the current Senju Jingchuan. However, facing the black substance in front of him that was about to escape, Senju Jingchuan didn't want to take care of his eyes at all. Anger now filled his heart, and he just wanted to destroy that sneaky thing as soon as possible. At that moment, Senju Kagawa distorted the space of this place without hesitation. In an instant, Senju Kagawa appeared in front of the black shadow that was about to escape, and the golden Susanoo moved with Senju Kagawa's movements. The enlarged version of the golden sun blade in the golden giant's hand slashed towards the creature at lightning speed, with a raging flame that seemed to be able to burn everything. The pitch-black creature turned its head and glanced at Senju Jingchuan. Senju Jingchuan's angry eyes were deeply reflected in Black Zetsu's memory. It would be another nightmare for it. The next second, Black Zetsu screamed and was engulfed by flames. The flames burned away without leaving any trace. However, Senju Jingchuan still felt that familiar, disgusting malice. He escaped. He actually escaped, Senju Jingchuan thought with gritted teeth in his heart. Then, Senju Jingchuan's eyes went dark and he fainted completely. Uchiha Izuna's brain is crashing now. Could anyone explain to him how the Senju Kagamigawa, the younger son of the rival Senju family, suddenly appeared with a pair of three Megatama Sharingan right in front of him, and in an instant, the three Megatama connected end to end, forming a large circle that looked like four birds connected end to end, with a spiral black sun pattern inside the circle? And why was he suddenly protected by a golden giant? Could that be the special ability of the Sharingan? Also, how come a pitch-black monster suddenly came out of the body of the Kaguya ninja who almost killed him, and was even destroyed by the Senju Kagamakuwa in an instant? Uchiha Izuna felt like his brain was about to be overloaded. His mind was blank and his already sore eyes became even more sore. With a snap, the three black Megatama in Uchiha Izuna's eyes spun at high speed, connecting end to end, forming a new pattern. That's right, Uchiha Izuna was scared by the Senju Kagamakuwa and developed the Mangekyo Sharingan. At that moment, Uchiha Izuna instantly understood, oh, it turns out that the pair of eyes with strange patterns are called Mangekyo Sharingan, and the golden giant is called Susanoo. Senju Tobirama was completely out of service this time. He felt as if he were dreaming. Obviously, Senju Kagamakuwa is his younger brother. His surname is Senju, and his younger brother Senju Kagamakuwa also has the surname Senju. But who can tell him why his younger brother, a pure Senju with white hair and black eyes, became an Uchiha? Even at the moment when Senju Kagamakuwa rushed out, those Kaguya were completely strangled by the distorted space. But Senju Tobirama was so shocked that he didn't pay any attention to the few Kagaya ninjas who died violently. Now, a sentence keeps repeating in Senju Tobirama's mind. My brother turned into an Uchiha. After seeing his mortal enemy Uchiha Izuna also pale with shock, Senju Tobirama finally felt a little comforted. It turns out that my mortal enemy didn't know about this either, it turns out that my mortal enemy was also shocked. It's okay then. But the next second, Senju Tobirama witnessed with his own eyes Uchiha Izuna's black pupils turning into red Sharingan with 3 Megatama, and then the 3 Megatama Sharingan suddenly evolved into the form of Mangekyo Sharingan. Senju Tobirama? Senju Tobirama! Senju Tobirama, nothing's wrong. The enemy's eyes have evolved, the Uchiha's fighting power has increased again. My brother is about to become an Uchiha. Senju Tobirama roared silently in his heart. Someone come save him, this must be fake. Senju Tobirama, world view collapses. And what about the Black Zetsu who was chopped by the Thousand Hands Kagami River? Black Zetsu is now almost like roasted coal. He originally just wanted to sow discord between the Senju and Uchiha clans. However, when he saw the prosperous scenery of a group of Kagaya, a group of Senju and an isolated Uchiha Izuna halfway through, he suddenly felt that his chance had come. This time he got an opportunity to make Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama break up completely. Black Zetsu was extremely excited at the time, and even secretly rejoiced in his heart that his idea of coming here specifically to cause trouble was so correct. As a result, he did not kill Uchiha Izuna, but he was almost killed by the Senju who had the Sharingan. If Black Zetsu was not actually some kind of conscious being that could not be killed in the true sense and could only be sealed or swallowed, Black Zetsu might not be a charcoal roasted Black Zetsu now, but a dead Zetsu. Black Zetsu came to his senses and said, "What's going on? How can a Senju have a Sharingan?" Black Zetsu's brain was also overloaded, it crashed. Thinking of the wood release of the Senju Kagamigawa, an idea inexplicably appeared in Black Zetsu's mind. Chapter 86, Did the hand cheat or did Uchiha cheat? This should have been a beautiful, sunny morning. After being framed by Black Zetsu, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha both awakened new abilities after a fight. Hashirama Senju mastered the power of wood release, and Uchiha Madara's 3 Megatama were upgraded to the Mangekyo Sharingan. There were 2 men, one Big Buddha and one Susanoo, and they were fighting happily. But suddenly, someone came to tell them that the Senju and Uchiha clans were plotted against by the daimyo of the Land of Fire. They didn't have to fight, and their younger brothers could even reach the Minamiga River soon. Although Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, who had gained new power, were angry that they were being plotted against, they were in a good mood because they had gained new power. So, the two of them prepared to go to pick up their brother together in front of the Senju and Uchiha people as if no one was around. The Senju and Uchiha people shouted silently, "Are you some kind of high school girl holding hands when you need to go to the bathroom? Why do you have to pick up your brother together? Your brother is so big." "No, I'm off topic. The Senju and Uchiha are enemies. Is it really okay for you 2 young clan leaders to do this in public?" But Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara don't care what others think. To a certain extent, the two of them have similar arrogant personalities, perhaps the arrogance brought about by strength. Although Hashirama Senju treats people peacefully in daily life and always looks silly, unreliable, and honest, he is also arrogant and will not change his mind for others. In this respect, the two are indeed close friends, they are both equally stubborn. So, the two of them held hands, and went to pick up their younger brothers. The Senju and Uchiha clansmen followed reluctantly. They were really afraid that their young clan leader might accidentally do something stupid. However, halfway through the journey, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha discovered that suddenly, a golden giant rose from the ground not far away, making a rumbling sound. Looking closely, the golden giant and Uchiha Madara's blue Susanoo are extremely similar in size and appearance. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara looked at each other, and both of them could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. Uchiha Madara, could it be that the golden Susanoo was opened by Izuna? Izuna also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan? Since he has reached the stage of activating Susanoo, he must have encountered a strong enemy. Who dared to hurt Uchiha Madara's beloved brother while he was away? Uchiha Madara was angry and immediately started the ninja rush mode. Senju Hashirama is naturally his good friend who always follows him. The Senju and Uchiha behind them followed their pace breathlessly. Senju, Uchiha group, Hashirama/Madara-sama, wait for me. After arriving at the destination. That's right, we encountered a strong enemy. The enemy is obviously a Kagaya ninja after all, there are obvious traces of Kagaya's corpse veins everywhere. It was true that Uchiha Izuna was injured after all, although his serious injuries had mostly healed, there were still large patches of blood on his clothes. It is true that the Sharingan has been opened. Uchiha Izuna has indeed opened the Sharingan. However, when Tobirama Senju tremblingly told his elder brother Hashirama Senju, your little brother, my little brother, suddenly became an Uchiha and opened the Sharingan, Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara showed black question mark faces. Don't blame them, this fact is really too unlike the truth, it's simply outrageous. How can a Senju open the Sharingan? But when Uchiha Izuna also told Uchiha Madara, in a daze I saw Senju Kagawa's Sharingan, and the golden Susanoo belongs to Senju Kagawa. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara had to believe this fact. This is so magical. Was it Senju who cheated, or was it Uchiha who had an affair? All the Uchiha and Senju present were in a trance. However, no matter what, Hashirama Senju looked around and did not find his younger brother Senju Kagamakuwa. Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna, as well as Senju Momika and Senju Chito, were all in a trance, obviously caught up in a brainstorming session, and unable to answer his question, where is Senju Kagamakuwa? Adhering to the good brother principle, Hashirama Senju very diligently picked up his dark and miserable brother Senju Kagamakuwa from a pile of burnt dead grass and trees. Upon closer inspection, there were 2 bright red tears of blood on Senju Kagamakuwa's face. Regardless of whether Senju Kagamakuwa is a Senju or an Uchiha, Senju Hashirama treats him as his own brother. What's more, Senju Hashirama believed that his brother was definitely his biological brother. He was definitely his father's biological son. Senju Hashirama trusts the relationship between Senju Haruko and Senju Busama very much. After all, Senju Kagamakuwa looks like Senju Haruko's son. The Senju and Uchiha group also collectively started brainstorming. If you think about it carefully, Senju Kagawa does look very delicate. He doesn't look like a rough Senju man at all. The only similarity between him and Senju Buddha seems to be his pair of black eyes. But Uchiha people also have black eyes everywhere. However, although Senju Kagawa has a delicate appearance, it is definitely because he takes after his mother Senju Haruko look. Isn't Senju Tobirama an example? Senju Tobirama is also very good looking, isn't it because he looks a bit like Senju Haruko? Can't Senju be delicate? The Senju clan, they suddenly became tough and collectively glared at the Uchiha who were dreaming across from them. The 1,000 hands, we swear to defend the honor of the clan leader and his wife until our death. The Uchiha clan on the opposite side did not have the same concerns as the Senju clan when they made their guesses. After all, they had never seen what Senju Kagamakuwa's mother looked like. Carefully observing Senju Kagawa's appearance, apart from the long white hair, the rest of her features fair and delicate skin, delicate facial features, long and thick eyelashes, and lips painted red without any makeup. Isn't that the standard Uchiha face? Then, Uchiha group, Senju, you actually stole my Uchiha cub. Uchiha group, collectively popped out their rabbit eyes, and rolled their eyes at the Senju group. Senju, why are you Uchiha rolling your eyes? We are not from the Hyuga clan. Uchiha, you child-stealing Senju. Why do you care about us? Hand over the child now. Hyuga clan, my family, who knows how innocent people get caught in the crossfire. Chapter 87. The atmosphere at the scene was tense. The Uchiha group's minds are now filled with the Senju on the opposite side stole our Uchiha's kid, what a sinister Senju, and they have begun brainstorming how the Senju Kagamakuwa fell into the hands of the Senju. After all, Senju Kagamakuwa is one of only 3 modern people who possess the Mangekyo Sharingan. And Senju was also brainstorming, wondering why Senju Kagamakuwa, who was obviously Senju, had the Sharingan. Uchiha Izuna's mind was blank at first, but when he touched the Senju Kagami River in the arms of Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Izuna suddenly reacted and immediately took a fighting stance. Sinister Senju Hashirama, hand over Kagamakuwa. Senju Hashirama was stunned for a moment, but Senju Tobirama immediately stood in front of his elder brother and younger brother, with a stern face, and said, Kagakawa is my brother, a legitimate Senju. Why should he go back with you Uchiha? Hehe, Kagamakuwa already has the Sharingan, and he still says he is not an Uchiha. Who knows how you Senju stole Kagamakuwa? Uchiha Izuna didn't believe what Senju Tobirama said at all. He said that how could the insidious Senju clan produce a man as loyal and righteous as Senju Kagawa, and that Senju Kagawa was such a good person, how could he be the younger brother of the insidious Senju Tobirama? Upon hearing this, the Uchiha members behind Uchiha Izuna glared fiercely at the Senju opposite them. As united and xenophobic Uchiha, they love every Uchiha cub. Now such a talented Uchiha has been stolen by the Senju, which is simply unforgivable. Ah! But Kagamakuwa is our child. I saw Kagamakuwa being born with my own eyes. Upon hearing this, Senju Hashirama scratched his head in confusion. Then, Hashirama Senju carefully observed the face of Senju Kagawa Senju in his arms. Although it was now dyed black by ash, Senju Kagawa Senju's facial features were very similar to his mother Senju Haruko Senju. In addition, Senju Kagawa has the same long white hair as Senju Tobirama, so this is definitely the child of their Senju family. Then how do you, the Senju people, explain that the Senju Kagamigawa has the Sharingan? Uchiha Izuna glared out her own Mangekyo Sharingan, not believing what Senju Hashirama said at all. Who knows if the Senju Kagamigawa has been swapped? Uchiha Izuna thought that after he returned to the clan, he would definitely ask his father Uchiha Tajima to investigate whether any babies had gone missing in the clan that year. In any case, this matter is inseparable from the Senju, and the Uchiha will never let any member of the clan be stranded outside. Uchiha Madara silently watched the farce in front of him, his eyes stayed on Senju Kagawa for a long time, then looked at Senju Hashirama and said, Hashirama, you Senju must give me, the Uchiha, an explanation for this matter. Ah, of course, Madara. I also want to know what is going on. Senju Hashirama replied. Finally, the matter was temporarily left unresolved, and under the vicious gazes of the Uchiha clan members, Senju Hashirama took Senju Kagamakuwa away. In the Uchiha clan territory. What did you say? The youngest son of Senju Fusuma has Sharingan. Uchiha Tajima looked shocked, and almost popped out a pair of Sharingan. God knows how shocked Uchiha Tajima is right now. After hearing that his eldest son and youngest son had both opened their Mangekyo, Uchiha Tajima is in a very good mood and feels very proud. He is thinking to himself, they are worthy of being my sons, they are so amazing. As a result, Uchiha Izuna's next words were the youngest son of his mortal enemy Senju Fusuma actually had a pair of Sharingan, and he skipped the first, second and third Megatama at once and opened the Sharingan in one go. How old is Senju Jingchuan now? Only 5 years old. What is the concept of 5 years old? The brothers Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna are both rare geniuses in the Uchiha clan. Even so, Uchiha Madara opened his eyes at the age of 13, and Uchiha Izuna opened his eyes at the age of 9. Now, only more than a year has passed, and Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna have already opened their Mangekyo, which is very talented in the entire Uchiha clan. But Senju Jingchuan is only 5 years old now. That's a 5-year-old Mangekyo Sharingan. Not to mention, in addition to the Mangekyo Sharingan, Senju Kagawa is also proficient in medical ninjutsu. According to Uchiha Madara, Senju Kagawa also has a very powerful sword technique. This is not something that can be summed up in one genius sentence. Uchiha Tajima also fell into a brainstorm. Uchiha Tajima needs some quiet time. Uchiha Izuna continued to talk about the various misdeeds of the Senju clan, especially the Senju Tobirama whom he hated. His repeated encounters with Senju Tobirama on the battlefield were enough for him to define Senju Tobirama as cruel and vicious. But after talking for a long time, Uchiha Izuna realized that his father had not spoken the whole time. Uchiha Izuna frowned slightly, looked puzzled, and called Uchiha Tajima several times. Uchiha Tajima finally woke up from his trance. Even Uchiha Tajima, who had seen a lot of vicissitudes of life, was shocked by this incident. This shows how outrageous it is for 1,000 hands to open the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Tajima, I was wondering where the fifth son of Senju Butsuken appeared from, and he looks so handsome. It turns out he might be my Uchiha's son. As for Senju Kagamakuwa's white hair, Uchiha Tajima didn't think this was a big deal at all. Although there had never been a white-haired member of the Uchiha clan, but who could say whether the genes would mutate and produce a white-haired Uchiha? Uchiha Tajima immediately sent people to investigate all the newly born Uchiha cubs 5 years ago, trying to find evidence that Senju Kagawa was an Uchiha, although in Uchiha Tajima's view, the Sharingan almost meant that there was definitely an Uchiha in Senju Kagawa's bloodline. At the same time, the Senju tribe, not far away, was also experiencing a huge storm. No one expected that Senju Kagamawa would suddenly produce a Sharingan. In the history of the Senju clan, there has never been any record of intermarriage with the Uchiha clan. After all, the two clans are old enemies, so how could they possibly intermarry? What's more, Senju Haruko and Senju Furuma are both Senju of pure bloodline, how could they have a child with Uchiha bloodline? Thousand-handed Buddha room, how come the world has changed after waking up? In any case, it is an indisputable fact that Senju Kagamawa glared at everyone with a pair of Sharingans. Although Senju Fujen can guarantee that Senju Jingchuan is his own child, a Senju of pure bloodline, but others may not believe it. Qian Shao Fojian, my son suddenly became the son of my mortal enemy, what should I do? Fortunately, both the Senju and Uchiha clans knew that no matter what, the fact that Senju Kagamawa had a Mangekyo could not be easily exposed. After all, this was a scandal between the two families. On a deeper level, this matter might also endanger the protagonist Senju Kagamawa. After all, he was a 5-year-old Mangekyo, and naturally there would be countless people who would want to strangle him in the cradle. As soon as Senju Tobirama returned to the clan, he took a blood sample from Senju Kagamawa and went to do research. The hope of the Senju clan now rests on Senju Tobirama. Qian Shao Fujian, come on, my second son. Now only you can prove my innocence. Tobirama Senju inexplicably shouldered a heavy responsibility, under great pressure. Page. Qian Shao Jingchuan was completely unaware of the bloody conflict between the two families at this time, because he was still dreaming. Chapter 88. Senju Jingchuan only now realized how much of a turmoil his opening of his eyes had caused between the two tribes. After fainting, Senju Jingchuan only felt that his consciousness was like drifting on the sea, up and down, being hit by the waves and rushing farther and farther away. The only feeling Senju Jingchuan had was that his eyes were in great pain. Although I don't know why I, as a Senju, have the Sharingan, but the after effects of using the Sharingan are too severe. Before using the Golden Giant Susanoo, Senju Kagawa's Mangekyo Sharingan sounded an alarm to him. With Senju Kagawa's current age, physical functions, and chakra amount, they were not enough to support the operation of Susanoo. However, the situation had become so critical at that time that Senju Kagamawa simply could not bear to watch Uchiha Izuna being hurt in front of him. After forcibly using Susanoo without considering the consequences, Senju Kagamawa could feel all the chakra in his body rushing towards his eyes frantically, and even the flame pathways had to give way to the chakra. At the same time, the consequences of chakra's forceful impact on the eye nerves also manifested themselves. 2 lines of blood and tears instantly flowed from Senju Kagamawa's eyes, and his eyes began to ache. But at that critical moment, Senju Kagamawa did not dare to use healing techniques to interfere with the operation of chakra, so he endured the severe pain and drove the Gundam to fight the black mud-like creature. As a result, the chakra was exhausted. That ghost thing was not destroyed either. Ah, this is really a loss of both the wife and the army. But at least Uchiha Izuna was rescued. In fact, after rescuing Uchiha Izuna, Senju Kagamawa could have completely shut down Susanoo and then go after Black Zetsu. But who didn't have a dream of driving a Gundam when they were a kid? Senju Kagamawa simply thought that his Susanoo was too cool and didn't want to turn it off at all. The result was that his eyes were now in severe pain and he fell into a coma after using up his chakra. Senju Jingchuan thought that opening the kaleidoscope was really risky. At his age, he should use it less. In his days, Senju Jingchuan vaguely thought of those Kagaya ninjas, the bones and veins of those Kagaya ninjas. Kagaya's bloodline limit is indeed very powerful, but correspondingly, the Kagaya clan is unable to actively control the production of calcium in their bodies, and the number of bones is far greater than the number of bones in the average person. Kagaya's bones grew too fast, so at every moment they could feel intense growing pains. Some Kagayas do not have enough talent to independently control osteoblasts and osteoclasts, which will cause the crazy growth of bones in the body and eventually die from blood inheritance disease. Kagaya, who is gifted and can control her own bones, has been used as a weapon by her own tribesmen since she was young. Her bones have been constantly broken and reassembled in order to train the hardness and strength of their bones and their ability to control bone growth. In addition, when using bones in combat, the pain caused by bones piercing the flesh and the adhesions of the nerves being pulled is also unbearable for most people. During battle, dust, blood, and bacteria outside the body will attach to the bones and eventually be brought back into the body. If this continues for years, it would be strange if Kagaya's body could still be healthy. Therefore, Senju Kagamikawa believes that the Sharingan will also have a bloodline disease if nothing unexpected happens. Every time chakra flows to the eyes, it should affect the optic nerve, right? If this continues, won't these eyes go blind? Even Senju Jingchuan could clearly feel that when he used Yuzume to distort space, his right eye was very painful and the chakra required doubled. If no solution is found, these eyes will go blind sooner or later. This Sharingan is really a consumable. In a daze, Senju Kagawa thought that he should check the eyes of Uchiha Izuna and Uchiha Madara after he woke up. They have been using the Sharingan for so long, who knows if there is any problem with their eyes. The problem with Senju Kagamikawa's eyes should be more serious. After all, the Sharingan requires strong stimulation from extreme emotions to open. When every loved one passed away, Senju Kagawa could feel strong and extreme pain. Senju Kagawa could actually open the Sharingan a long time ago, but due to age restrictions and the previous limitation of not being able to use chakra, Senju Kagawa did not open the Megatama Sharingan. And now, Senju Jingchuan allowed the chakra to flow into his eyes. This strong impact caused Senju Jingchuan to jump 3 levels and directly turned into a kaleidoscope. Without the transition of the 3 Megatama, the pressure on the eyes would be greater. Senju Jingchuan thought that he should use his Manjikyo less until he was capable enough. Suddenly, Senju Jingchuan felt that he had passed through a thin film-like obstacle. After passing through that barrier, Senju Jingchuan felt the darkness in front of his eyes turn into light. There was light shining on Senju Kagawa's eyes. Senju Kagamikawa blinked his thick eyelashes slightly, then gently opened his eyes. A flash of white light passed by. There was no light in front of me, it was clearly a pitch-black place. Senju Jingchuan supported himself on the ground with his hands and then sat up. Where is this? Senju Jingchuan looked around in confusion, then called the system in his mind. But everything fell on deaf ears, the system did not respond at all. Really? I can't see anything clearly. Where are Tobirama-san and Izuna? It can't be that I was suddenly kidnapped, right? Senju Kagamikawa reluctantly opened his Sharingan, trying to see clearly the darkness around him. In the darkness, Senju Jingchuan's pair of red eyes with sun patterns stood out particularly. Senju Jingchuan finally saw the surroundings clearly. This place is completely underground. The bare stone wall exudes a cold breath, announcing that this is a cave. Suddenly, Qian Shao Jingchuan heard several sounds of breaking through the air. His pupils shrank, and then he controlled his body and wanted to jump up. Then, hiss, it hurts. Senju Jingchuan covered his head, which was causing dull pain from hitting the ceiling here. Senju Kagamikawa did successfully dodge those kunao, but his mind was now blank. He looked blankly at his feet, which were at least 2 meters away from where he was just now. That's right, Senju Kagawa was floating just now. He suddenly floated up. But, since he can float, then why did it hit the ceiling? Shouldn't it just go through the wall? And many more. Why is he floating? He is a human being, right? Qian Shao Jingchuan was shocked, Qian Shao Jingchuan was horrified. Is he dead? Only when you die will you become a ghost. Did he just open a kaleidoscope and suddenly die? Isn't it? Is he so miserable? So where is this place? Is Yamaizumi better than Ryasaka? Chapter 89. Parallel Time and Space. Master, I feel that we are now in another time and space. The ugly monster suddenly reminded. What? Another time and space? Did he travel through time again? Senju Kagamikawa narrowed his eyes and looked at the kunao that had just attacked him. They were stuck in the wall beside him, deeply embedded in the wood. Since there is still a kunao, it proves that he is still in the ninja world. Who? A voice suddenly interrupted Senju Jingchuan's thoughts. Senju Kagawa turned into a dot-eyed man, and he floated towards the source of the sound in confusion. This voice is so familiar. It was a male voice. Although it was old and hoarse, it could not hide the familiarity of this voice to Senju Jingchuan. I always feel like I've heard it somewhere. Where is there anyone? I don't see anyone. Another voice came, and this voice was completely unfamiliar to Senju Jingchuan. Senju Jingchuan floated, and then saw a humanoid creature that was completely white. The right side of the humanoid creature looked normal, with the same structure as a human, but the left half of the body was strange, with several white things like branches extending from it. The humanoid creature was obviously stunned when he saw Senju Jingchuan, and then swallowed the words that were about to be said. Then, another humanoid creature suddenly appeared. The white humanoid creature had a circular face with a round hole where the right eye should be. Circle Face came up to Senju Kagawa and shouted in surprise. "Ban, what do you think this is? Is it a human?" Senju Kagamakuwa was originally frightened because the Circle Face suddenly approached him. But the word that Circle Face said next completely shocked Senju Jingchuan. He raised his eyes and looked behind the two humanoid creatures. His good eyesight allowed Senju Jingchuan to catch a glimpse of a figure sitting not far away. The man was wearing a black robe and sitting on a bench with his head slightly lowered. His long white hair hung down, covering the right half of his face. Due to the lighting conditions, Senju Jingchuan could only see the general outline and could not make out the specific details. He said, "That voice just now was so familiar, it turned out to be Uchiha Madara." However, the voice of Uchiha Madara in his memory was a clear boyish voice, definitely not like the voice now hoarse, mature, and old. There are also white hairs, and Ban's hairs are obviously black. Senju Jingchuan suddenly reacted. Just now the ugly monster said that they have traveled through time and space, so could the Uchiha Madara in front of me be the old Uchiha Madara? Since this is not the time and space he is in, then the existence of this Uchiha Madara. Is it a parallel world? That Uchiha Madara just sat there quietly, as if it wasn't him who had just asked and thrown a few kunao. The circle-faced humanoid creature beside him was still looking at the Thousand Hands Mirror River in amazement. Suddenly, as if he had discovered something new, he shouted in surprise. "Madara, this ghost's eyes are similar to yours. Is he also an Uchiha?" Senju Jingchuan could see that the circle-faced creature in front of him seemed a little stupid. Hearing this, Uchiha Madara, who had been sitting quietly and silent, finally raised his head and revealed his left eye. It was a 3 Megatama Sharingan. And now, Senju Kagamakuwa finally saw Uchiha Madara's appearance clearly. That old face, those chapped lips. Even so, Senju Kagamakuwa still saw the familiar shadow on his face. It was indeed Uchiha Madara, but it was the elderly Uchiha Madara from another world and another timeline. Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Madara, who was sitting there, spoke. His voice was very hoarse, as if he hadn't spoken for a long time. Uchiha Madara looked sharply towards the Senju Kagami River. He was very confused now. He had never heard of an Uchiha with the Mangekyo Sharingan, not to mention, he was so young. Moreover, how did the Senju Kagami River appear here? And why was there no breath at all? That's right, Uchiha Madara didn't feel the chakra breath of the Senju Kagami River at all, and only threw out a few kunao to test it when he heard the sudden movement there. Senju Kagamakuwa asked the ugly monster to help teleport him in front of Uchiha Madara. He could now feel the pain in his eyes just by opening the Sharingan, and he really didn't dare to use the ability of this pair of eyes anymore. When Uchiha Madara saw Senju Kagamakuwa suddenly appear in front of him, his pupils shrank and he subconsciously tightened the sickle in his hand. That's right, a sickle. After approaching Uchiha Madara, Senju Kagamakuwa saw that Uchiha Madara's left hand was resting on a long-handled sickle, and the blade of the sickle hung on the ground, as if it could be used as a crutch. "Ah, he can teleport." The man with the round face suddenly held his face with both hands, and twisted his whole body left and right like a maggot. The humanoid creature next to him moved away from the man with disgust. "Hey, brother Madara, why don't you turn on the light? It's too dark here, it's so hurtful to my eyes." Senju Kagawa didn't care about Uchiha Madara's vigilance in front of him at all. Of course, he would not hurt Uchiha Madara. What's more, he believed that even though Uchiha Madara in front of him was old, he definitely had the ability to protect himself. "Brother Ban, close your eyes. I'll light a candle." Senju Kagamakuwa spoke to himself, and when he saw that Uchiha Madara did not close his eyes as he said, he just sighed slightly, stood in front of Uchiha Madara, and then controlled the flame to light the candles here. The candlelight was very weak, and the Senju Kagami River blocked some of the light, so the sudden sight of the light did not cause Uchiha Madara's eyes to feel uncomfortable. The pitch-black underground suddenly became bright, and Senju Kagawa could finally see the place clearly without the help of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Only then did Senju Kagamawa see clearly the appearance of the person in front of him. He didn't expect that Uchiha Madara, who had always been so cool and handsome in his memory, would also have a wrinkled face and a chrysanthemum mouth when he got old. Although he was still considered a handsome type among old grandfathers, his expression was really too fierce. There was no trace of the gentle Madara in Senju Kagamawa's memory. The old Madara in front of him was like a bully dog, making people want to retreat 3 feet away at first sight. Uchiha Madara had no idea what was in the mind of the man in front of him who was suspected to be one of his clansmen. The sudden light also allowed Uchiha Madara to see Senju Kagamawa clearly. White hair, Mangekyo Sharingan with sun pattern. He has a very delicate appearance, a standard Uchiha appearance, but no Uchiha has white hair, and the eyes and brows of Senju Kagamawa vaguely make Uchiha Madara feel somewhat familiar. Moreover, Uchiha Madara noticed that when he manipulated the flame to light the candle just now, Senju Kagamawa did not form any hand seals. The Uchiha family members originally preferred fire attribute chakra, but they were definitely not powerful enough to use chakra to light candles without any hand seals. Could this be the power of his Mangekyo? Uchiha Madara thought in his mind. But using a kaleidoscope to light candles is really a waste of resources. In addition, what Uchiha Madara was most concerned about was the attitude of Senju Kagawa that seemed to be very familiar with him, the attitude of casually calling him Brother Madara. But Uchiha Madara didn't remember that he had such a cousin. What's more, Uchiha Madara had died decades ago, and it was impossible for Senju Kagamawa to know him at his age. Who are you? Uchiha Madara finally asked. Chapter 90. Senju Jingchuan smiled when he heard that, and his eyes, which had turned black again, were filled with starlight, perhaps because of the candle light. Since Uchiha Madara was sitting at this time and Senju Kagawa was floating, Senju Kagawa's line of sight was just level with Uchiha Madara, so Uchiha Madara could easily see Senju Kagawa's eyes. Kamigawa, my name is Kamigawa. Senju Kamigawa said with a smile. It's not that Senju Kagamawa doesn't want to tell Uchiha Madara his last name. The main thing is that the current situation is obviously not right. How could Uchiha Madara live in such a dark and cramped underground place? How could he be without anyone by his side? Those humanoid creatures seemed to have their own consciousness. What was going on? Also, the strange-looking thing behind Uchiha Madara that looks like a statue and a tree. Why are there 3 white tubes connected to Uchiha Madara's back? Are they connected to that strange thing? Do you know me? But I don't know you. Uchiha Madara said slowly. Upon hearing this, Qian Shao Jingchuan touched his chin and said in a thoughtful tone. Ah, maybe that's because I'm from another world. In my world, you're just a teenage boy. Hairy boy, did you hear that? Hey, he actually called Madara the hairy boy. The circle-faced man thought he was speaking in a very low voice to the humanoid creature next to him, but in fact, the hearing of several people present was very good. Even though Uchiha Madara is now old, he can still hear it. Uchiha Madara ignored the crazy circle face, narrowed his eyes, and asked, another world? What is the other world like? Ah, it should be similar to your world, right? Senju Jingchuan recalled the novels about parallel universes that he had read in his previous life. It seemed that parallel universes were all similar. But what about you? Brother Ban, why are you here? Senju Jingchuan continued to ask. Uchiha Madara did not answer his question, but analyzed it himself. You call me Brother Madara? Are you my younger brother? But you don't exist in my world. Senshao Jingchuan burst into laughter. There was no Jingchuan who traveled through this world, so naturally there was no him. He said, hey, Brother Ban, please respect the differences between the parallel worlds. Why did you come here? Uchiha Madara finally got to the point. Qian Shao Jingchuan thought about it carefully. He himself didn't know how he got here. However, he currently has a small guess in his mind. Perhaps, his visit this time is related to his kaleidoscope ability. However, he did not express his guess. After all, the Uchiha Madara in front of him was not the Uchiha Madara he knew. Although he still had a natural liking for the Uchiha Madara in front of him, Senju Kagamawa's sixth sense told him that the Uchiha Madara in front of him was definitely not that simple, so it was better not to reveal his true colors easily. So, Qian Shaojing Chuan avoided the main point and said. Let me think, I was fighting Kaguya with Izuna before I came here, and then I ended up here in a flash. Kaguya? Uchiha Madara was thinking in his mind, and he quickly flipped through his past memories for him who possessed the Sharingan. Even though he was now in his twilight years, Uchiha Madara could still easily recall various details of the past. But in Uchiha Madara's memory, Uchiha Izuna had never fought with Kaguya. After all, the bloodline disease of the Kaguya clan meant that there would not be many living combatants in their clan. If that was the case, why would they provoke a big ninja clan like the Uchiha? Therefore, in Uchiha Madara's memory, the Hyuga clan has always had a stable relationship with the Uchiha clan, and there would be no war without reason. If that's the case, then perhaps this is the difference brought by Mirror River. By the way, Brother Madara, you've asked me so many questions, isn't it my turn to ask you next? Senju Kagamikawa suddenly came in front of Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara subconsciously avoided Senju Kagamikawa's sight. For some reason, seeing Senju Kagamikawa's clear eyes always reminded Uchiha Madara of his brother who died young. Perhaps it was because their eye shapes were similar? Or perhaps it was because both of their eyes had a hint of tenderness towards Madara. Uchiha Madara did not answer Senju Kagamikawa's question. The next second, in front of Senju Kagamikawa's incredulous eyes, Uchiha Madara actually did this in front of Senju Kagamikawa. Asleep. Qian Shaojing Chuan was puzzled, Qian Shaojing Chuan was shocked, Qian Shaojing Chuan couldn't believe it. How is it possible? How can someone fall asleep in just 1 second? And sleep while sitting? How come he didn't know that Uchiha Madara was the type who could fall asleep while sitting? After Senju Kagamikawa shouted loudly for a long time, he finally believed it completely. The Uchiha Madara in front of him was indeed asleep. If it weren't for Uchiha Madara's current physical condition, Senju Kagamikawa would even want to shake Uchiha Madara awake. There was no way. The current Uchiha Madara looked too thin, very different from the strong and arrogant Uchiha Madara in Senju Kagamikawa's memory. If it weren't for the similar facial features and chakra, Senju Kagamikawa would hardly recognize that the old man in front of him was Uchiha Madara. But speaking of chakra, why did Senju Kagamikawa always feel that the old Uchiha Madara in front of him had a familiar chakra feeling? Not only Uchiha Madara, but even the two strange humanoid creatures also had a very familiar aura from Senju Kagawa. What kind of aura is this? Qian Shaojing Chuan pondered. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration exploded in Senju Jingchuan's mind. Qian Shaojing Chuan made a fist with his right hand and punched his left hand, then said with sudden realization. Oh! I understand, isn't this Hashirama-san's chakra aura? Chapter 91. When Senju Kagamikawa thought of Uchiha Madara's chakra mixed with the chakra of Senju Hashirama, he felt a little chilly. Although Hashirama Senju always says Madara is my best friend and Madara is the revelation given to me by God, Uchiha Madara has always been rather reserved. Although Uchiha Madara actually also attached great importance to Hashirama Senju, and even opened his eyes because of Hashirama Senju. But how could Uchiha Madara's chakra be mixed with the aura of Senju Hashirama? Can things like chakra be exchanged? Senju Jingchuan frowned, scratched his ears and cheeks, and couldn't figure it out. Although this is a parallel world, the direction should be similar to the world he is in. Especially, the current situation is so strange no matter how you look at it. How could someone as proud and powerful as Uchiha Madara be willing to live underground? In particular, the two white humanoid creatures always reminded Senju Kagamikawa of the black humanoid creature who plotted against him and Izuna. At this time, the circle-faced man was surrounding Uchiha Madara, making all kinds of funny and distorted gestures. After finally confirming that Uchiha Madara was indeed asleep, the circle-faced man suddenly came in front of Senju Kagamikawa. Senju Jingchuan, who was caught off guard and deep in thought, was startled by the sudden movement and jumped up. However, at this moment Senju Jingchuan forgot that he was a soul body and could not jump at all, so his body lost its balance and hit the ceiling. Senju Kagawa hit the ceiling again and cried out in pain. His circle face, what are you doing? Senshao Jingchuan opened his eyes wide and glared at circle face. The circle-faced man scratched his head and said innocently. Sorry, I scared you. However, you look like a ghost, but you can touch other things. Said the circle-faced man in confusion. Upon hearing this, Senju Jingchuan also reached out and touched the ceiling above his head. Indeed, his hand did not pass through the ceiling as he expected. He tried floating to other places and touching other things, and then found that his hand passed through all the objects here. Even when Senju Kagamikawa put his hand on Uchiha Madara, it would pass directly through. What's going on? Senju Kagamikawa wondered. He floated to the wall here and tried to go through it, but found that as soon as he touched the stone wall, it was as if he encountered a real obstacle and he couldn't get through it no matter what. So, he is indeed in the form of a soul, unable to touch the objects or people here, but he is also unable to pass through the stone walls here? Is this because Senju Jingchuan cannot leave this space, or is it because he cannot pass through the specific barriers? At this time, the circle-faced man came to the front of Qianshao Jingchuan again, and tentatively reached out to touch Qianshao Jingchuan. As expected, his hand also passed through Qianshao Jingchuan. The moment Circle Face touched Senju Jingchuan's hand, ripples appeared where Senju Jingchuan was touched. As expected, there was no way to touch it. Hi! Circle Face exclaimed in surprise. I didn't expect that you are the younger brother of Madara from another world. You really don't look alike. Another humanoid creature also came over and looked Senju Kagamikawa up and down. This humanoid creature doesn't look as silly as the circle-faced one. He has an evil and shrewd look on his face. Let's call him a pitcher plant for now. Although he doesn't look like one, as soon as I saw him, the creature pitcher plant popped up in my mind. Senju Kagawa thought quietly in his heart. Hey, have you seen Madara's brother in this world? Who says brothers have to look the same? Senju Kagamikawa asked with a smile. The circle-faced man suddenly squeezed past the pitcher plant, came in front of Senju Jingchuan, and gave him a disgusting face again. Senju Jingchuan moved away from Quankin's face speechlessly. I have to say that the circle-shaped face looks really ugly, just like wearing a mask. It is totally inconsistent with Senju Jingchuan's aesthetic. I know the answer to this question. The man with the circle face said excitedly. I know Ban has a younger brother, but he died a long time ago. Circle Face said as if no one was around, his tone very cheerful. It seemed like he didn't care about death at all. When Qianshao Jingchuan heard this, his pupils shrank and his breathing became disordered. Dead? Who died? Is it Izuna? Senju Jingchuan couldn't help but think in his heart. I don't know his name, you have to ask Ban. Circle Face said thoughtfully. Senshao Jingchuan was stunned. It turned out that he had just asked what he was thinking. Nepenthe noticed Senju Kagawa's momentary loss of composure, although he didn't know why the soul body was breathing. He said maliciously. From your looks, since you are also Madara's younger brother, you must have a very good relationship with Madara's other brother. As far as I know, Madara only has one living brother, but unfortunately, that brother died decades ago. If you are curious, why not wait for Madara to wake up and ask him about that matter in detail? However, it may take some time for Madara to wake up, maybe a few days as you humans would say. Said the pitcher plant. Senju Kagamikawa temporarily suppressed his worry about Uchiha Izuna. After all, Uchiha Madara had not woken up yet, and no matter how worried he was, he had no way of knowing the cause of Uchiha Izuna's death. And now, Senju Kagawa is more concerned about another thing. Why did Uchiha Madara sleep for several days? Senju Kagamikawa asked very honestly. The round face held his face and said. Maybe it's because Madara is already very old? He even has to rely on the six-path statue to maintain his biological functions. By the way, do you know what it feels like to have a bowel movement? Circle Face looked at Senshao Jingchuan expectantly. When Uchiha Madara was still young, he observed that every once in a while, Uchiha Madara would go to relieve himself. Every time he asked Uchiha Madara out of curiosity, he would be beaten by Uchiha Madara. Therefore, Circle Face now has no idea what the so-called urge to defecate feels like. There is no way. Circle Face is really curious about humans, and he is especially curious about the urge to defecate. But in this isolated underground place, apart from Uchiha Madara, Circle Face didn't know who else he could ask. What does it feel like to have a bowel movement? After all, other creatures were not considered human. The physiological need of the urge to defecate is obviously something that only humans have. Therefore, as soon as he caught the human Senju Jingchuan, Circle Face couldn't help but ask. After hearing his question, Sen Xiaojing Chuan was speechless. How should he explain this to circle-faced man? Since I can't explain it. Crackling is the sound of flames burning. Qian Xiaojing Chuan threw a ball of fire at Circle Face with lightning speed. The Circle Face suddenly turned into a black charcoal burnt Circle Face. Very good, now it looks more like that black creature. Senju Jingchuan felt even more unhappy. Chapter 92, False Peace. Hey, what are you guys? Asked Senju Jingchuan. At this time, the pitcher plant was frantically looking for water to pour on the circle-faced creature to prevent him from being burned to ashes. But it was obvious that water was useless against the flames of the Senju Kagamai River. Seeing this, Qian Xiaojing Chuan naturally retracted the flame. If the flame of Qian Xiaojing Chuan burned a little longer, the circle of face would turn into ashes. Although White Zetsu is a product of wood release, and even Chakra's fire release cannot do anything to White Zetsu, the flame of the Senju Kagamai River is no ordinary flame. So far it seems to have only been defeated on the bones of Kagaya Ninja. After getting rid of the flames, the circle-faced creature moved away from the Senju Kagawa River, seemingly never wanting to experience the flames of the Senju Kagawa River again. The pitcher plant also took a defensive stance and looked at the Senju Kagawa River. Tisk, it's my turn to ask you. Senju Jingchuan didn't care about Circle Face and pitcher plant's fear and vigilance towards him. For Senju Jingchuan, in this strange place, other people's fear and vigilance were more beneficial to him. Seeing the two's expressions, Qian Xiaojing Chuan curled his lips and felt speechless. It was just a burn. Who are you? Why do you have the chakra of the pillar Senju Hashirama on you? Circle Face and pitcher plant looked as if they would never surrender. They looked up at the sky, down at the ground, and around them, but not at Senju Mirror River. The two white humanoid creatures were even trying to sneak away. Senju Kagawa immediately glared out his Mangekyo Sharingan and used the spatial ability of his right eye, Jade Zooming, to seal off the entire area, even the underground. Therefore, the plan of Nepenthes and Circle Face to escape underground was completely shattered. Senju Kagamai sneered. He had let the black mud go because of carelessness before, but the current Kagamai is no longer the Senju Kagamai. He is now the Thousand Hands Mangekyo Kagamai. When facing the White Zetsu, which seems to have a similar structure to the black mud, he naturally learned his lesson. But seeing the Circle Face and the pitcher plant trying to escape underground but being restricted by the space barrier, Senju Jingchuan narrowed his eyes and was sure in his heart this thing is really very similar to the black mud, maybe it is the same substance. When Circle Face and pitcher plant found themselves confined in this small space, they completely gave up. The pitcher plant looked hopeless, collapsed on the ground, and answered helplessly. That's because we are the product of Hashirama Senju's wood release, so we naturally have the aura of his chakra. Seeing that Nepenthes yielded to Senju Jingchuan so easily, the circle-faced man immediately jumped up in shock, pointed at Nepenthes' nose and cursed, "How can you be so spineless?" Upon hearing this, Senju Jingchuan immediately glared at Circle Face, said with a half-smile, and the flame from before flashed on his hand. Circle Face felt the heat from the flames and instantly jumped 3 feet high, hiding behind the pitcher plant and collapsing with him. Circle Face's face is just like his name, a bunch of circles. Sen Xiaojing Chuan can't even see his eyes. Now Circle Face has collapsed into a ball of white mud. Sen Xiaojing Chuan shouldn't be able to read Circle Face's emotions. But for some reason, when Senju Jingchuan saw Circle Face's frank attitude, he felt that Circle Face showed an expression of shame and anger. He couldn't help but be a little amused. What kind of things does Uchiha Madara raise? He can use them to entertain himself when he is bored. Wood release? What is that? Senju Kagawa asked humbly. The pitcher plant widened its eyes in shock after hearing Senju Kagamikawa's question, and its mouth almost opened into an O shape. You don't know? Hasn't the wood release master Senju Hashirama awakened his wood release yet? Senju Kagamikawa nodded honestly. He had indeed never seen Senju Hashirama use any wood escape techniques. But judging by the name, it should be related to plants. I wonder if it can be used to promote plant growth. However, since it is possible to grow pitcher plants and circle faces, there should be no problem in using wood release to grow plants, right? Senju Kagamikawa thought, when I go back, I must ask Hashirama-san to pinch my face with 2 circles to entertain me. Next, Senju Jingchuan asked Circle Face and Pitcher Plant many questions. Most things about the Warring States period, the Circle Faces and the Pitcher Plants are not very clear. However, as Uchiha Madara's current intelligence tools, Circle Face and Pitcher Plant do know a lot about current events. Under the pressure of Senju Kagawa, Nepenthes reluctantly revealed some information, but still concealed many things, such as Uchiha Madara's Moon Eye plan. He even did not tell Senju Kagawa the reason why Uchiha Madara lived here. No matter how Senju Kagawa asked, Nepenthes and Circle Face did not tell him. However, Senju Jingchuan now knows a lot of information. For example, the current era should be a relatively peaceful era. More than 40 years ago, Hashirama's Senju united some ninja clans to establish Konoha village. Since then, various countries have successively established ninja armed groups named Ninja Village. When Hashirama's Senju was alive, due to his powerful strength and deterrence, the major ninja villages maintained relative peace, but it was obvious that this peace was not long-lasting. After the death of Hashirama's Senju, the major ninja villages started a war between ninjas for one reason or another. In just 40 years, 2 ninja world wars have already broken out. Now, Konoha village has some conflicts with other ninja villages, especially the Hidden Mist village. After fermenting in the past few years, the situation between countries has been very unclear recently, and a third ninja world war may break out. After hearing all this, Senju Jingchuan couldn't help but fall into silence. Unexpectedly, in this world without him, Hashirama's Senju did realize his childhood dream and built a village. But does this really fulfill Hashirama's Senju's dream? The original intention of Hashirama's Senju and Madara Uchiha's desire for peace was to protect their younger brothers, but Uchiha Izuna died long before the village was built. Thinking in this way, it seems understandable that Madara Uchiha did not build Konoha village together with Hashirama's Senju. Moreover, although the 5 major ninja villages maintained a brief peace, now the horn of war is about to sound again. This means that countless more children will be caught up in the chaos of war and forced to take up the sword. Can such peace really be called peace? What's more, according to Senju Kagamikawa's understanding of Uchiha Madara, he would never live underground like an old widower. How could Uchiha Madara, who did not agree with Senju Hashirama's ideals, allow Konoha village to exist? He is so calm now, he must be plotting a bigger conspiracy. Chapter 93, Oh no, Uchiha is here to cause trouble. But looking at the 2 fools in front of him, Senju Jingchuan felt that although these 2 were useless, they were loyal, and he probably wouldn't be able to get anything out of them later. Even when Senju Jingchuan asked the 2 if they had seen the black mud that looked very similar to them, Circle Face and Pitcher Plant looked at him in confusion. Senju Jingchuan didn't know whether they knew it or not, so he gave up. He now decided to wait for Uchiha Madara to wake up. Hey, when will Brother Ban wake up? Thousand Hands Jingchuan asked Circle Face. He and the ugly monster were inexplicably dragged here. To be honest, they didn't know when they could go back. It might take a long time, or it might be the next moment. But to be honest, Senju Jingchuan is still a little anxious now. After all, he doesn't know what the situation is in his original world. Moreover, after learning the news of Uchiha Izuna's death here, Senju Kagamikawa had a strong urgency to go back and confirm Uchiha Izuna's condition. Circle-faced people did not hide anything this time. Rather, they wanted to make Senju Jingchuan give up and leave here on their own initiative. That's right, he and Nepenthes both thought that Senju Jingchuan came here relying on his spatial ability. So, Circle Face said very honestly. I don't know that either, but based on Madara's usual condition, it should take about 4 or 5 days. 4 or 5 days, Senju Kagawa raised his eyebrows. After sleeping for so long. Is there really nothing wrong with Brother Ban's health? Senju Kagawa began to worry. So Senju Kagamikawa simply followed his heart and floated directly in front of Uchiha Madara, intending to use healing techniques to check Uchiha Madara's physical condition. Well, looking at Uchiha Madara, he even needs to be connected to 3 water pipes to maintain his physiological needs. I'm really not used to it. Senju Kagamikawa thought, in his memory, Uchiha Madara was always so strong, excellent, and independent, and never needed to rely on external things. Although the eyes of Uchiha Madara now are still firm and sharp, they are inevitably stained with some vicissitudes of life. Coupled with this state that can almost be called lingering on, Senju Kagamikawa couldn't help but feel a little sad. Thinking about it this way, it seems that in this world, the few people who established peace did not have a good ending, right? Hashirama Senju died of exhaustion, Tobirama Senju died in World War II to protect the village, and now Uchiha Madara doesn't seem to be in good condition either. Senju Jingchuan thought so in his heart, but his hands did not stop moving. Just as Senju Kagamikawa's hand was about to touch Uchiha Madara, he felt dizzy. In an instant, the space where Qian Shao Jingchuan was located suddenly distorted. The next second, in the confused sight of circle face and pitcher plant, Senju Jingchuan disappeared. The cave finally returned to silence. And what about Senju Kagawa? Senju Jingchuan now only felt that his head was very dizzy, as if he had been stuffed into a washing machine for a long time, and finally he felt the reality of touching the ground. Senju Jingchuan suddenly opened his eyes, then turned his head to the side and vomited. You. At this time, Maiwako Senju, who was examining Kagakikawa Senju's body by his bedside, looked confused. She was just checking on Senju Kagakikawa's condition, because Senju Hashirama and several others were very worried about Senju Kagakikawa's condition. After all, Senju Kagakikawa had been unconscious for a day since he opened his eyes. Although his vital signs were stable, it still made people a little worried. However, Senju Jingchuan suddenly woke up at this time and spit out a bunch of rainbow objects. Senshao Jingchuan retched for a long time again and he felt very dizzy now. A glass of water was handed to Senju Kagawa. Senju Kagamikawa looked up along the hand and found that it was Senju Tobirama. Drink some water. There was a hint of worry in Senju Tobirama's red eyes. Does it hurt? Is it because of the Sharingan? Senju Tobirama asked. After all, he had studied this area extensively and had some knowledge of the Uchiha Sharingan. He knew that it was not a good thing for a young man like Senju Kagami to open the Mangekyo at this age, especially since he had been dizzy for a whole day. This must be a side effect of the Sharingan. Evil Uchiha. Senju Tobirama thought viciously in his heart. In his opinion, the inexplicable opening of his eyes by his brother Senju Kagamikawa might have something to do with the Uchiha. During the time when Senju Kagawa was in a coma, he checked his blood sample and found that Senju Kagawa was indeed a descendant of the Senju clan. Then why does Senju Kagamigawa have the Sharingan? This is worth exploring, although, now the Uchiha side is also involved in conspiracy theories against Senju Tobirama. Senju Jingchuan took the cup of water, rinsed his mouth, and then took a few sips to calm himself down. Finally, he felt better. Thanks, brother Tobirama. Senju Kagawa first thanked politely out of habit. Then Senju Kagawa answered Senju Tobirama's question. Ah, that's not the case. Senju Kagamikawa felt that his ability to travel through time and space might indeed have something to do with the ability of the Mangekyo Sharingan, but the dizziness he felt was clearly caused by time and space travel, so how could he blame the Sharingan? However, he did use Uzuming's ability after all, and now his right eye does hurt a little. Senju Kagawa looked out the window and saw that it was daytime, so he asked, Brother Tobirama, how long have I slept? Senju Tobirama sighed slightly, looked at Senju Kagawa with a complaining look, and said, You've been dizzy for a day. Little brother, do you know how much trouble you've caused this time? This day was not enough to resolve anything, but it made the rumors within the Senju and Uchiha clans more and more intense. Although Senju Tobirama used experiments to prove that Senju Kagawa Senju was indeed a child of the Senju family, this could only make the Senju people who trusted Senju Tobirama believe it. How could the Uchiha on the opposite side believe what Senju Tobirama said? Even in the eyes of the Uchiha on the opposite side, Senju Tobirama is a research maniac who loves experiments. Who knows whether Senju Tobirama faked the blood test? After all, Senju Kagamigawa does have the bloodline of the Uchiha family. Ninjas who don't know the story between the Senju and the Uchiha ancestors will never understand why a Senju has the Uchiha bloodline. After hearing Senju Tobirama's complaints, Senju Kagawa laughed awkwardly. He also looked innocent. Okay? Who knows why he has the Sharingan? Senshao Jingchuan called the system in his heart. The system recovered quickly, but it was the first to complain. Host, where did your soul go before? If I hadn't been here to cover it up for you, you would have been exposed long ago. Senju Jingchuan was embarrassed. He was about to explain when he heard some noise outside the door. It's bad, Master Tobirama Uchiha Izuna and his men are here to attack us. Chapter 94, Stealing the Child. What? Uchiha Izuna is here to fight? Senju Jingchuan's eyes widened in an instant. He only slept for 1 day, but the situation between Senju and Uchiha has become so tense? It's just a pair of Sharingan, is it that serious? Senju Kagawa muttered in his heart, and prepared to go out with Senju Tobirama to see what was going on. Qian Shao Jingchuan took the time to reply to the system. I seem to have traveled to another world. No, it should be said that it is a parallel universe. After hearing this, the system was silent for a while, and then said, I'll go check the situation. Senju Kagamikawa followed Senju Tobirama to the gate of the clan's territory, which was crowded with people. Obviously, everyone is curious. Although the relationship between Senju and Uchiha has always been bad, the two sides have never interfered with each other in daily life. But today, Uchiha broke his usual behavior and brought people to cause trouble. Senju Jingchuan originally thought that due to his height he would be blocked and wouldn't be able to see anything, but he didn't expect that after seeing Senju Jingchuan coming, the Senju people who were gathered in a group spontaneously made way for him. I don't know which tribe member shouted, everyone make way, Xiao Jingchuan is coming. In an instant, Senju Jingchuan became the focus of the whole audience, and everyone around him stood 1 meter away from him as if they were infected with some virus. A vacuum zone formed around Senju Kagamikawa. Everyone was looking at him, and the Uchiha on the opposite side also saw him. At this moment, the whole audience was silent. Ha, ha, Senju Kagamikawa laughed awkwardly twice. Who can tell him what is going on now? Everyone keep talking, don't worry about me, I just came here to take a look. Senju Kagamikawa said as he slowly backed away and hid behind Senju Tobirama. Senju Tobirama naturally stood in front of Senju Kagawa, blocking the sights coming towards Senju Kagawa. Senju Jingchuan breathed a sigh of relief. With so many people looking at him, it was quite a big scene. If I had known I would not have come. Senju Jingchuan thought bitterly in his heart. Then, Senju Tobirama took Senju Kagawa's hand and walked towards the middle of the two groups, ignoring Senju Kagawa's resistance at all. Brother Tobirama, are you trying to kill me? Senju Kagawa showed a desperate look. He really didn't want to be stared at by so many rabbit eyes. But no matter what, this situation was not something Senju Kagawa could refuse, and his resistance was ruthlessly suppressed by Senju Tobirama. Senju Jingchuan finally stood between the two tribes. Uchiha Izuna was standing at the front of the Uchiha group at this time, with a cold expression, and it seemed that the air around him had become a little colder. Especially when he saw Senju Tobirama holding Senju Kagawa's hand, Uchiha Izuna's eyes became even colder. Uchiha Izuna, you brought your people across the Nanga River and arrived at the gate of the Senju clan's territory. Are you going to start a war between the two clans? Senju Tobirama did not show any fear in front of Uchiha Izuna. Senju Tobirama's expression was exactly as cold as Uchiha Izuna's, and his aura was no less than that of his nominal enemy. Humph, I'm here to pick up our people. You, the Senju clan, are detaining the Uchiha people, aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by other ninja clans? Uchiha Izuna immediately retorted. When Uchiha Izuna said this, he was not looking at Senju Tobirama. He was staring at Senju Kagamikawa, the boy he considered his best friend. Senju Tobirama noticed Uchiha Izuna's gaze, frowned, and then blocked Senju Kagamikawa behind him more tightly. Senju Kagamikawa, confused face, Tobirama-san, what are you doing? I can't even see Izuna. Senju Kagamikawa couldn't help but feel relieved after confirming that Uchiha Izuna was now fine. After being separated from Uchiha Izuna's gaze by Senju Tobirama, Senju Kagamikawa belatedly realized what Uchiha Izuna meant by what he had just said. Wait! Could it be me that is the clan member that Izuna-chan mentioned? Senju Kagamikawa was very shocked. How could he, a pure and righteous Senju, be a clan member of Uchiha Izuna? Master, you are too thick-skinned, aren't you? The ugly monster secretly laughed at Qian Shao Jingchuan in the flames. Sen Shao Jingchuan felt his face getting hot and he immediately started arguing with the ugly monster like a child. One person and one space derivative were arguing happily in the consciousness space. If you don't know their ages, you might think they were two naughty kids quarreling because the content was so vulgar. Kagikawa. Show me your Sharingan. I want to see who dares to say that you are not of Uchiha bloodline. Uchiha Izuna suddenly called out Senju Kagikawa's name. It turned out that while Senju Kagamikawa was talking to the ugly monster, Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna had already fought for several rounds. And Uchiha Izuna's eloquence is obviously not as eloquent as Senju Tobirama's. Uchiha Izuna was almost so angry at Senju Tobirama that he glared out his manjikyo on the spot, and Uchiha Izuna really couldn't swallow this. Therefore, the pressure was put on Senju Jingchuan. Senju Jingchuan, who was called out innocently, almost shouted here reflexively. The memories of his death in his previous life suddenly attacked Senju Jingchuan. Senju Jingchuan almost thought that he was in class and was caught by the teacher for being absent-minded. After reacting, Senju Jingchuan found that the people at the scene began to stare at him again. 2 drops of cold sweat ran down Senju Jingchuan's forehead. This scene was really embarrassing. Ah! Senshao Jingchuan could only squeeze out this one word after holding it in for a long time. Uchiha Izuna looked at Senju Kagamikawa with disappointment. Senju Jingchuan now feels like a sinner. Beauty is a real disaster. The system suddenly laughed at Qianshao Jingchuan coldly. Senju Kagamikawa responded speechlessly, "System, did you use the wrong line?" Seeing that Senju Kagamikawa was not in good shape at all, Senju Tobirama and Uchiha Izuna started a new round of battle. If it weren't for the members of the 2 tribes stopping them, they might have started fighting. Senju Kagamikawa tightly stopped Senju Tobirama from acting impulsively. "Senju Kagamikawa, Tobirama-san, Izuna-chan, please don't fight for me." Senju Jingchuan was trembling here like a quail, and the system in his head was still mocking him. Senju Kagamikawa still has some after-effects of time travel. Senju and Uchiha are arguing fiercely at the scene, and the system in his mind is still mocking him. Qianshao Jingchuan finally couldn't stand it anymore, he suddenly shouted. "Stop arguing!" The Senju Kagami River erupted. Chapter 95, Hand and Uchiha are brothers. This roar contained chakra, so Senju Kagawa's words could be fully heard by everyone present, and echoed for a full minute. Everyone present fell silent at once. Senju Tobirama's heart skipped a beat. Uchiha Izuna's rabbit eyes were frightened by Senju Kagamikawa and retracted. This was the first time they saw Senju Jingchuan so angry. At this time, Senju Jingchuan's cheeks turned red with anger, his head was a little dizzy, and his consciousness was not very clear. This sudden outburst of power was also a product of his emotions. Senju Kagamikawa, who was overwhelmed with emotion, completely abandoned his rationality. He pushed Senju Tobirama away all of a sudden, causing him to stagger. Then, Senju Kagamikawa stood in the center of the crowd, facing Uchiha Izuna. Uchiha Izuna looked at Senju Kagamikawa with a somewhat dazed look, and there was even some clear stupidity in his black pupils. Senju Kagamikawa pointed at Uchiha Izuna unceremoniously and said coldly, "You, stand back." After hearing this, Uchiha Izuna looked at Senju Kagamikawa in disbelief, as if she was a wife abandoned by a heartless man. Uchiha Izuna felt that he was particularly wronged. He brought people here to mess things up, didn't he just want to take Senju Kagamikawa back? Why was Senju Kagamikawa still being mean to him now? Seeing this, Senju Tobirama raised a faint smile and looked at Uchiha Izuna provocatively. Uchiha Izuna was so angry that his eyes bulged out, but because of the Senju Kagami River, Uchiha Izuna didn't dare to act rashly. "Humph, evil Uchiha Izuna, I knew that I would not be fooled by your evil words." Senju Tobirama secretly rejoiced in his heart. But Senju Tobirama didn't feel happy for long. Senju Kagawa turned his head to look at him and scolded him. "What are you laughing at? You two, step back." Senju Tobirama, with a stiff face, he silently took a half-step back. Senju Kagamikawa, staring at him, frowning in dissatisfaction, "Take 2 more steps back." Senju Tobirama, baby Tobirama feels wronged, but Tobirama doesn't say anything and silently takes 2 steps back. Seeing that both sides were behaving well, Senju Jingchuan's irritable mood was finally suppressed a little. He took a deep breath, then exhaled, and felt a lot better. Senju Jingchuan looked relaxed, and then said, "Although I have the Sharingan, I am indeed a Senju." He turned his head to Uchiha Izuna, curved his eyebrows, and softened his tone. "Izuna-chan, aren't you being too impulsive to bring your tribe members to the Senju tribe to cause trouble? This is not your character. I know you are worried about me, but don't worry, I am doing well in Senju. If you come over here like this, it will easily cause Qian Shao to misunderstand. Well, as for my Sharingan, is it possible that my ancestors have Uchiha blood, so I can awaken the Sharingan? Senju Kagamakuwa expressed his guess with some uncertainty in his tone. This is the most reliable explanation that Senju Kagamakuwa can think of. Although the Senju and Uchiha are still in a hostile relationship, who knows, in the distant past, could the Senju and Uchiha have fallen in love, allowing the common blood of the two clans to be passed down to this day? But Uchiha Izuna in front of him obviously didn't believe what Senju Kagawa said. In his opinion, Senju and Uchiha couldn't have such a close relationship. After all, there was a blood feud between them. What? You want to ask why he and Senju Kagawa have such a good relationship? It must be because they are both Uchiha, and the similar blood calls them to become close friends. Uchiha Izuna would never admit that he is double standard. So, Uchiha Izuna said somewhat unconvinced. Then according to what you said, Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama are your brothers, so why didn't they awaken the Sharingan? This was not a problem for Senshao Jingchuan, as he had already thought of an excuse. Senju Kagawa said with a firm look in his eyes. Aya Izuna-chan. After all, the bloodline has been separated for such a long time, it has been diluted a long time ago. My Sharingan may be due to atavism. Senju Kagamakuwa, with a determined look as if he wants to join the party, Izuna-chan, believe me. I have studied genetics. Uchiha Izuna, gradually half believing and half doubting Senju Kagamakuwa's lies. Seeing that Uchiha Izuna's expression softened a little, Senju Kagamakuwa struck while the iron was hot and started a new round of verbal persuasion. He asked Uchiha Izuna about his well-being, showing his concern for him, and subtly interspersed his own thoughts in his words, gradually convincing Uchiha Izuna. Even after he finished speaking, Senju Jingchuan still felt a little unsatisfied. After seeing Senju Tobirama frowning, Senju Kagawa felt a little unhappy again, so he found a few mistakes of Senju Tobirama and said a few words to him, and criticized him harshly. He didn't stop until he made Senju Tobirama doubt his life. When Uchiha Izuna saw the scene of Senju Kagawa scolding Senju Tobirama, he felt a lot better in an instant. He no longer cared about the harsh words Senju Kagawa had just said to him. He even reflected on his own mistakes and felt deeply that he was too reckless this time and should not have come to Senju to ruin the place like this. I've talked a lot and for too long. My mouth is a little dry and I want to drink some water, Senju Kagawa muttered in his heart. Senju Jingchuan, a qualified master of mouth-to-mouth and pua. Finally, Qian Shao Jingchuan pursed his lips slightly and stated his real purpose today. In this case, I have the blood of Uchiha, which is roughly equivalent to Senju having the blood of Uchiha, which means that Senju and Uchiha can become brothers. If the Senju and Uchiha continue to be hostile to each other, how many Uchiha and Senju who were supposed to be together will be separated, and how many close friends like Izuna-chan and I will become enemies? So, the Senju and Uchiha should be brothers and should form an alliance. This sentence was like a depth charge, which instantly exploded the seabed. Originally the Senju and Uchiha group had been confused by Senju Kagawa's words, but when they heard Senju Kagawa's last words, all the Senju and Uchiha present suddenly exploded, arguing with each other, and the situation returned to the situation before Senju Kagawa came. Well, I think there is nothing wrong with what Xiao Jingchuan said. Some members of the Senju tribe began to express their opinions. What do you mean there's nothing wrong with you? You've been fooled. We Senju and Uchiha have a deep hatred. Another Senju yelled angrily. But if we keep holding on to this hatred, the Senju and Uchiha will all die out sooner or later, right? Many Senju also echoed this view. Even Senju Tobirama looked deeply at Senju Kagawa. He had never thought that his 5-year-old brother could be so aware. He had always thought that what Senju Kagawa had said about wanting to create peace was just a joke from a child, but he had never expected that Senju Kagawa actually had his own thoughts and would actually take action, although it seemed that he was just talking at the moment. However, how many Senju and Uchiha can truly abandon their small self and preserve their greater self like Senju Kagamakuwa? The hatred between the Senju and Uchiha has always been the hatred of countless people gathered together to form a huge hatred. In this way, the Senju and Uchiha have been fighting until one generation to the death, which has almost become a curse. Senju Tobirama wondered, could his brother really do it? Could he really make everyone let go of their hatred? Chapter 96. About peace. Just as Tobirama Senju expected, how could the hatred between the Senju and Uchiha clans be eliminated so easily? Although some members of the two tribes were somewhat shaken by Senju Jingchuan's words, most of them still insisted on their own opinions and were unable to let go of the hatred in their hearts. In the end, Uchiha Izuna still left with the Uchiha clan members, and the purpose of Senju Kagamigawa's trip was achieved. Senju Kagamigawa had never thought that the two families would completely eliminate their hatred and shake hands in peace just because of his few words. In short, the purpose of today's words was to first resolve the issue of Uchiha Izuna coming to mess things up, and secondly to plant the seeds of peace in everyone's hearts. Sooner or later, the seeds of peace will take root and sprout, and eventually grow into an unshakable towering tree. Before leaving, Uchiha Izuna looked deeply at the Senju Kagamigawa for a while. Senju Kagamigawa could only give Uchiha Izuna an apologetic smile. After everyone dispersed, Senshou Jingchuan felt that the air around him suddenly became much fresher, and his head was not as dizzy as before. System, so how can I, a Senju, have the Uchiha Sharingan? It can't be a real reversion to my ancestors, right? Senju Kagawa smiled bitterly and complained in his heart. But what Qianshou Jingchuan didn't expect was that this time the system didn't ask riddles anymore, but replied to him directly. Host, why don't you stick to your own ideas? Maybe the ancestors of Senju and Uchiha are from the same family. Senju Kagamigawa, shocked, are Izuna and I really brothers? Senshou Jingchuan felt a little bit unbelievable when he heard that. He quickly asked the system about something related, but this time the system only told Senshou Jingchuan to explore it on his own. Senju Kagamigawa is now extremely curious. He really wants to know why the Senju and Uchiha, who may have been brothers in their ancestors, would become enemies and become like this. But no matter how Qianshou Jingchuan asked, the system remained silent. What? Hashirama-san awakened wood release. At the dinner table, Senju Kagawa slammed the table in shock. He had heard Circle Face and Nepenthes talk about wood release, but his elder brother had never shown any tendency to awaken wood release, so he thought it was too early, or that this was another difference in the parallel world. But he didn't expect that Hashirama Senju would awaken wood release right now. Doesn't that prove that everything that happens in the parallel world is likely to happen in this world as well? When Senju Kagamigawa thought of the other world where the elderly Uchiha Madara was living underground and his two brothers and Uchiha Izumina had died young, his heart couldn't help but ache. If this kind of thing happens again, it would be too scary, it would be like a nightmare. Senju Jingchuan closed his eyes. Well. Hashirama awakened wood release. This is an ability that only appeared in the records of our ancestors. I didn't expect that the glory of our ancestors could be restored in this generation. Ha ha ha. Senju Butsuma laughed out loud. He was excited when he thought about this. Senju Hashirama had a simple and honest expression. He scratched his head and smiled, his tone carrying a sense of pride. Well, yes, not only did I awaken wood release, but Madara also awakened the Mangekyo. It's great to be able to progress with him. The next second, Senju Fugen slapped Senju Hashirama on the forehead. What's there to be happy about? Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna have both awakened their Mangekyo, and the opponent's combat power has increased again. You are still yelling Madara Madara, are you still my Senju Butsuma's child? Senju Hashirama cried out in pain and hugged his head in frustration. Senju Jingchuan originally thought that Senju Fugen would mention the matter of his kaleidoscope, but he did not expect that Senju Fugen's attitude towards him was exactly the same as usual, and he seemed to not care about his kaleidoscope at all. The attentive Senju Tobirama noticed that Senju Kagawa was absent-minded. He picked up the dish that Senju Kagawa liked and put it in his bowl, saying gently, "Little brother, eat well and don't think about anything else." Ah, good. A full moon hung in the sky, casting rays of moonlight through the thin clouds, illuminating the silence on the ground. After eating and drinking, Senju Kagamigawa pulled Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama into the room. Kagamigawa, what do you want to say? Senju Hashirama asked puzzledly. He saw that Senju Kagamigawa seemed very anxious. Senju Tobirama also looked at Senju Kagamigawa in confusion. Well, I just want to ask you two brothers what you think about peace, or in other words, how do you think we can establish peace? Senju Kagawa's black eyes were shining at this time, flickering with the light of hope that Senju Hashirama had once seen. Senju Hashirama frowned and thought for a while, then suddenly it dawned on him, he said. Ah, the peace I want to establish is a peace where all ninja clans can live in peace. It would be great if everyone could live together in one village and there would be no more wars. Senju Tobirama looked at Senju Hashirama disapprovingly and retorted. Wherever there are people, there are conflicts. There is no such ideal world as you said, brother. Moreover, the daimyo will not allow the ninjas to make peace. Then, Senju Tobirama put forward his own idea. Only with absolute power can peace be created. I think peace can only be established after the Senju completely subdues the Uchiha. Only the Senju are the most powerful ninja clan, and the other ninja clans will naturally surrender. Senju Jingchuan nodded suddenly. Hashirama-san is such an idealist. Building a village, it's too plain and simple. Konoha village? It's a good idea, but the fighting power can't always be balanced. This may be the reason for several ninja wars, right? Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama began to argue endlessly about the topic of peace. Ah, Tobirama, you're too radical. No, brother, you are too indecisive. So, Senju Jingchuan smiled slightly, and then denied their ideas without hesitation. No. You're both wrong. Chapter 97. It's time for brothers to discuss. Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama looked at Senju Kagamikawa with puzzled expressions, waiting for Senju Kagamikawa's next words. Senju Jingchuan gave a mysterious smile and said slowly. Brother Hashirama, brother Tobirama, there is nothing wrong with what you two are considering, but you are too one-sided. Senju Kagawa's gaze stopped in front of Senju Hashirama, and two pairs of black eyes faced each other. One pair was firm but full of doubt, and the other pair was bright and full of confidence. Senju Kagawa said. Tobirama-san is right, Hashirama-san. Sometimes, if you consider everyone and care about everyone's thoughts, you may not be able to achieve your ultimate goal. As for the village, it's too small. Since you are afraid of the daimyo and worried that he will become an obstacle to the peace of the ninja world, why not just establish a country belonging to ninjas? At some point, just as Tobirama-san said, only when we have strong enough strength can we have the right to speak. Senju Tobirama's expression eased slightly after hearing this. It seems that Senju Kagamikawa's thoughts are very similar to his. Senju Tobirama, giving a thumbs up in his heart, you are worthy of being my younger brother. Your thoughts are just like mine. But because of this, Senju Tobirama was even more confused as to why Senju Kagawa just said that he was wrong. But Senju Kagamikawa's turning words came out. Senju Tobirama listened attentively. Brother Tobirama, although I agree with your idea is too hardline and radical, isn't it? Why can only the Uchiha clan be eliminated in order for the Senju clan to stand at the top? Why can't both clans stand at the top together? Senju Tobirama opened his mouth and wanted to refute Senju Kagawa's words, but decided to listen to Senju Kagawa's thoughts first. Senju Kagawa continued. Brother Tobirama, I don't think it's a good thing to stay at the top for a long time. The first position is too high and too difficult to maintain. When Senju Kagamikawa said this, he sighed slightly. He thought of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara in another world. Even if those two people were in another world, they would still be among the best ninjas, and their abilities represented the strongest of that era. But even so, Hashirama's Senju will die one day, and Uchiha Madara will grow old one day. The most regrettable thing in this world is that the strong grow old and the brave die young, right? But, Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama from another world each occupied one. This is really hard to accept. After the death of the two former top masters, the two tribes temporarily did not have a new generation that could take up the responsibility. Without a strong person to suppress them with force, the ambitions of some people were obvious, and the war was provoked again under such circumstances. War does bring many casualties, but it also creates strong people. If the Senju clan stands alone at the top of the world, even if the Senju Jingchuan brothers create a brief peace, how long can this peace last? A few decades at most. Decades later, if there are no thousand-hand descendants in the new generation who are strong enough to surpass or catch up with their strength, will those jackals who are jealous of the thousand-hand clan choose the right time to bite hard on this behemoth that is already crumbling inside? And when the heavy ninja clan rises up to attack, how long can the Senju clan hold out? Qian Shao Jingchuan didn't dare to gamble, nor did he dare to imagine the situation that might arise in the future. Therefore, Senju Kagamikawa can only create a prosperous era that is as stable and peaceful as possible in the present that he can control, so that this situation can be maintained in the future. Brother Tobirama, there is a saying that goes, "It's lonely at the top." We don't know what the future will be like, and we can't change the past, but right now, we should combine the forces that can unite and work hard to create a true, stable peace that can satisfy most ninjas. Or we can master the most powerful force and make everyone afraid, so that no one will ever think of resisting again. But Tobirama-san, the latter is obviously unlikely. Senju Tobirama's expression changed slightly, obviously he had heard what Senju Kagawa said. Senju Jingchuan struck while the iron was hot and continued. Brother Tobirama, I am very greedy. I want to create peace, and I also want to have strong power so that no one dares to question my actions. So, the Senju should join forces with the Uchiha. If the two top ninja clans unite, the other ninja clans will always choose to surrender, right? And, Tobirama-san, Hashirama-san, you must know that great strength is only a means to create peace. Peace can never be achieved by suppressing with force. Therefore, after all the ninja clans have to submit to us on the surface, our peace must satisfy the majority of the ninja clans. Only in this way can we dispel the dissent of most people. Senju Kagawa laughed, his black eyes sparkling with a powerful and confident light like the sun. Senju Tobirama looked at Senju Kagawa's appearance at this moment, and suddenly felt that the sun-patterned kaleidoscope was really suitable for his little brother. His little brother, Senju Kagawa, was such a bright and confident person like the sun. Hashirama Senju laughed twice, and his laughter was very hearty. Although the voice was that of a young boy, one could already get a preliminary glimpse of his cheerful future appearance. Of course, the premise was to ignore his watermelon head. A gentle smile appeared on Senju Tobirama's lips, and he said softly, "Ah, little brother, you succeeded. You succeeded in convincing me." Senju Hashirama also showed a relaxed expression and said, "Yes, Kagamigawa-chan, you really gave me and Tobirama a big surprise. You're right, I was too one-sided before. The more you want perfection, the more likely you are to get nothing in the end." Although Hashirama Senju usually looks silly and naive, it is undeniable that he is actually a very smart person. Otherwise, how could Hashirama Senju master wood release and how could he train his strength to the peak? After being instructed by Senju Kagamigawa, Senju Hashirama realized his own shortcomings. He almost put the cart before the horse. Peace was the goal, and building a village was just a means, but he almost regarded building a village as the ultimate goal. When Senju Jingchuan heard his two brothers praising him like that, his mood instantly improved several degrees. He squinted his eyes with pride and smiled foolishly. Senju Hashirama smiled, and then hit Senju Kagamigawa without any mercy. "But, Kagami-chan, you still have a long way to go." After hearing this, Senju Kagawa stabbed back disdainfully. "Ah, Hashirama-san, of course I know. But, next time, could you please not lecture me with that watermelon-like haircut? It really ruins the show." "Ah? Really, Kagami-chan? Are you really that ugly?" Senju Tobirama and Senju Kagamigawa said in unison, "It's really ugly." Chapter 98. Goodbye Uchiha Madara. When he opened his eyes again, Senju Jingchuan found himself in the cave where he had traveled through time and space before. However, traveling through time and space doesn't seem to be that painful this time. In a trance, Senju Jingchuan seemed to hear someone talking. Uchiha Madara had just woken up and was exchanging information with Black Zetsu, who had been out for a long time. Unexpectedly, after just a short while, a figure appeared in the empty and quiet cave. Although the figure was a physical entity, it was floating in the air, swaying unsteadily. It looked like it would fall to the ground in the next second, but it remained firmly suspended in mid-air. Uchiha Madara couldn't help but feel a little surprised. After he heard White Zetsu say that Senju Kagamigawa had gone back, he just thought it was just an accident of time and space ninjutsu. He didn't expect that he would be able to see Senju Kagamigawa again. Uchiha Madara made a gesture to let Black Zetsu hide first, then Black Zetsu slowly dissolved into the ground without leaving a trace. Senju Kagamigawa slowly opened his eyes, and saw Uchiha Madara sitting not far away. Uchiha Madara is no different from before, still looking very old. "Host, it turns out that you have traveled through time here before," the system said meaningfully. Although Qian Shao Jingchuan didn't understand what the system wanted to express, he felt that the tone of the system was strange, so he asked naturally. What's wrong? Is there any problem wearing here? The system smiled, and the electronic sound rang in Senju Jingchuan's mind, and then said. Nothing, host, this system just thinks you are a little too lucky. Senju Kagawa became interested after hearing this and asked. Why do you say that? The system said, why don't you try to get closer to this Uchiha Madara? The amount of stickiness he can give you is extraordinary. Qian Shao Jingchuan showed his half-moon eyes, and he thought it was something else, but it turned out to be just a sticker value. However, he can't touch the entity, so can he still get the sticker value? Uchiha Madara originally thought that this time, the Senju Kagawa would rush over directly like last time. But he didn't expect that this time, after the Senju Kagawa opened his eyes and saw him, he just floated in the same place without moving. Uchiha Madara, somewhat surprised, what is he thinking about secretly? Then, the second after Uchiha Madara breathed a sigh of relief. Senju Jingchuan suddenly teleported over, then opened his arms and gave him a big hug. Brother Ban, I'm so glad to see you again. I'm so happy. Uchiha Madara didn't react at once and was actually hugged by Senju Kagamakuwa. But the next second, Uchiha Madara's mind was filled with big question marks. How did Senju Kagamakuwa pass through space without opening the Mangekyo? Ugly monster, helping the master to travel through space, hiding his achievements and fame. Hearing the sound of Tai Tai value plus 15 echoing in his ears, Senju Kagamakuwa narrowed his eyes happily. The sticker value is really good. That's right, this time Senju Kagawa didn't pass through Uchiha Madara, but hugged him directly. The system's explanation for this is that the sticker value system will not let the host miss any opportunity to obtain sticker value. Well, at critical moments, this system is still somewhat useful. Uchiha Madara was caught off guard and was hugged tightly. This embrace did not have the warmth of a human being, but only the feeling of being bound by some force. However, Uchiha Madara did not know why he always felt that this embrace revealed a familiar feeling. This was also the reason why Uchiha Madara did not immediately break free from the embrace after he reacted. Senju Kagamakuwa rubbed his chest closely. However, as Uchiha Madara grew older, his figure became increasingly thin. All Senju Kagamakuwa could feel was his ribs, which had become somewhat protruding. Senju Jingchuan sighed in his heart. If nothing unexpected happens, the health of the old Uchiha Madara will not be very good. Living in this cave every day, with no one to accompany me, how can I recover physically if I feel depressed? Brother Ban, let me check your body, said Senju Jingchuan. Uchiha Madara was stunned for a moment when he heard this. The next second, he felt a warm current flowing out from Senju Kagamakuwa's hands and flowing to his limbs, making him feel warm. And the Senju Kagamakuwa in Uchiha Madara's arms also became warm at this time, and his whole body was glowing with warmth. That was the warmth that Uchiha Madara had not experienced for a long time. Perhaps because he was old and a little sentimental, Uchiha Madara was somewhat greedy for this kind of warmth, the kind of warmth that he had never experienced again since he faked his death and escaped after the final battle with Hashirama Senju. After Senju Kagamakuwa's healing technique moved around Uchiha Madara's body for several times, it discovered many hidden diseases. The healing technique is like a tailor who mends stitches. Wherever he goes, he mends Uchiha Madara's injuries until they are restored to their original state. Uchiha Madara only felt warm all over his body, and his body seemed to have regained its strength, just like his peak period. He sighed, then looked at the top of Senju Kagawa's head, thinking. General Palm magic definitely does not have such magical power. I didn't expect that he would have such exquisite medical ninjutsu. Uchiha Madara knew how troublesome the hidden injuries left in his body were. Some of the injuries had become chronic illnesses because they had been delayed for too long. They did not show their power at ordinary times, but would begin to flare up at certain specific times. Although that little pain was nothing to Uchiha Madara, it would still have some impact on his daily life in the long run. After this battle, Uchiha Madara actually felt like he was reborn. All his illnesses disappeared, and he even no longer relied on the outer path statue. Of course this was an illusion, as the Senju Kagami River's healing technique was not powerful enough to rejuvenate Uchiha Madara. Boy, what do you want to do? Uchiha Madara didn't believe that there was any kindness in this world for no reason. He always felt that Senju Kagamakuwa approached him with some ulterior motives. After hearing this, Senju Kagamikawa looked up at Uchiha Madara's eyes. He originally thought that Uchiha Madara would push him away, but he didn't expect that Uchiha Madara would actually accept this treatment obediently. Senju Jingchuan thought about it carefully and felt that this question needed to be answered properly. He smiled, his black eyes were very clear, like a lake, full of tenderness, and said, "Brother Ban, if I say I have no purpose, not only you won't believe it, but I myself won't believe it either. However, time travel is an adventure for me, and being able to see you in another world is something I dare not imagine, and all of this is happening right before my eyes. Brother Ban, I don't know if there will be another adventure like this. But I want to do my best in the limited time to make you happier and happier. Well, although I also want to know what happened in this world and what you went through to become what you are now. But every world is unique. Even in parallel time and space, there are exceptions like me, right? Whether it's the Uchiha Madara in my world or you in front of me, they are both the steadfast, gentle, and strong Madara brother in my heart." Uchiha Madara was stunned for a long time, then turned his head away in embarrassment as if he was burned by these words. At this moment, Senju Kagamikawa saw the shadow of the former Uchiha Madara in the old Uchiha Madara, the arrogant and shy boy when they first met. Chapter 99. Under the suppression of Uchiha Madara's eyes, Senju Kagawa had no choice but to follow his idea and get off Uchiha Madara's body. But after getting off, Senju Kagawa still floated beside Uchiha Madara, occasionally approaching him to touch him and give him a pinch. Now Uchiha Madara has reacted and started to reflect on his relaxation just now. If the purpose of Senju Kagamigawa was to kill him, Uchiha Madara would have been beheaded by now. Although what Senju Kagamikawa just said was very touching, Uchiha Madara now only wants to complete his Moon Eye project and will not be easily moved by external things. However, Senju Kagamikawa's actions just now have made Uchiha Madara believe that Senju Kagamikawa might have a good relationship with him in another world. However, the process of this trial cannot be forgotten. Uchiha Madara's expression has now returned to calm, and he said coldly, "You didn't tell me last time who you are." Senju Kagamikawa was stunned when he heard that, and could only say that he was worthy of being Uchiha Madara, cautious and careful. "Well, I think I didn't specify my identity last time. But speaking of it, it's really strange that a Senju has the Sharingan, right?" Senju Kagawa touched his chin and thought silently in his heart. "Besides, we still don't know what the problem is between Madara-san and Hashirama-san. If I say that I'm Hashirama-san's younger brother, will it affect my relationship with Madara-san?" Senju Kagamigawa was genuinely worried. He had finally managed to soften the attitude of Uchiha Madara in front of him. The next second, a flash of inspiration suddenly appeared in Senju Jingchuan's mind. Senju Kagamikawa suddenly gave Uchiha Madara a big smile, a very bright smile. "Brother Madara, I've already told you that I'm your and Izuna's younger brother." Then, a sly light flashed in Senju Kagawa's eyes, and he shouted loudly, "Brother Ban, don't you still believe me? I can prove my identity. As I remember, Brother Ban, you are the type that can't pee when someone is standing behind you, and also, woo." Uchiha Madara quickly covered Senju Kagawa's mouth, forcing Senju Kagawa to stop saying the next words. At this time, Uchiha Madara did not look at all as slow as he was just now. Uchiha Madara's eyes showed some shame, and he said angrily, "Shut up." Senju Kagamikawa finally managed to break free from Uchiha Madara's hand. Apart from anything else, when it comes to his privacy, Uchiha Madara is still very quick. Senju Jingchuan smiled ingratiatingly, his expression was more obedient than ever before. He nodded and assured, "Hey, Brother Ban, I won't tell you any more. I promise." The next second, Senju Kagamikawa once again showed that expression that seemed mean to Uchiha Madara, and asked in a low voice, "So, Brother Ban, do you believe me now?" Uchiha Madara sighed helplessly. With Senju Kagamikawa like this, could he still not believe him? If Uchiha Madara said now that he didn't believe Senju Kagamikawa would have to teleport far away from Uchiha Madara and then shout out loud all the dark history of Uchiha Madara. Not to mention, there are already creatures in this cave discussing what Qianshao Jingchuan just said. "That's right, I'm talking about you, circle-faced and pitcher plant." Circle face, curious expression, "Hey, did you hear that? I didn't expect Madara to be that type." Pitcher plant, speechless, I'm not deaf. Circle face, with a puzzled look, but why can't Ban urinate when someone stands behind him? Can he hold the urge to urinate? What does the urge to urinate feel like? Is it the same as the urge to defecate? Circle-faced man thought his voice was very soft, but he didn't know that Senju Kagamikawa and Uchiha Madara who were present both had very good hearing, and therefore heard their conversation clearly. Uchiha Madara gives a warning look. Nepenthes quickly covers Circle-face's mouth, knocks him unconscious and takes him away. Senju Kagamikawa, smirking JPG. When Uchiha Madara saw Senju Kagamikawa grinning, he couldn't help but ask a real question in his heart, is this person really one of their Uchiha's kids? Tsundere is a label for almost every Uchiha. Uchiha Madara rarely sees an Uchiha as lively, cheerful and mischievous as Senju Kagamikawa. Uchiha Madara thought about the Uchiha boy whom he asked Black Zetsu to monitor these days, that Uchiha was also the Uchiha who was known as the least like an Uchiha. Not only did he smile foolishly and have a silly expression every day, he was even the last in the school. There was not the slightest trace of Uchiha on him. But Uchiha Madara, who was good at judging people, had an inexplicable intuition that the boy who looked the least like an Uchiha must have amazing talent and was an Uchiha who could accomplish great things, and was very suitable to take over his Moon Eye project. Well, thinking about it this way, that Uchiha boy is somewhat similar to the Senju Kagamikawa in front of him, both are as lively as a little sun. However, the Senju Kagamikawa in front of him has obviously revealed an amazing talent. After all, he is a genius who can open the manjikyo of both eyes at the age of 5. But speaking of it, to open the kaleidoscope, the emotional impact one has to experience must be extremely huge, right? Will Senju Kagawa open his eyes by witnessing the death of his loved ones? Then why is it that Senju Kagawa, who has experienced so much hatred, can still maintain his current lively and cheerful appearance like a little sun? A desire to explore suddenly arose in Uchiha Madara's heart. The sun always attracts people, doesn't it? Especially people like Uchiha Madara who haven't been exposed to the sun for a long time. Think about it carefully, wasn't Hashirama Senju the sun that illuminated the ninja world? Countless people chased after this sun, hoping to stand shoulder to shoulder with the god of the ninja world, but in the end, the only one who could stand beside Hashirama Senju was Uchiha Madara, the man called Shura by everyone in the ninja world. Unfortunately, after establishing Konoha village, Hashirama Senju gradually put the cart before the horse, violating the original intentions of Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara. It was for this reason that Uchiha Madara chose to attack Konoha and find a new way to peace, which led to the current Moon Eye project. Brother Madara, Brother Madara! Seeing that Uchiha Madara was in a daze, Senju Kagamikawa waved his hands in front of his eyes. Uchiha Madara suddenly woke up, he just fell into memories. When people get old, they really like to reminisce. Uchiha Madara thought. However, Uchiha Madara is not someone who would be bound by memories. Now he suddenly looks forward to creating peace after his resurrection. Uchiha Madara suddenly had an idea, so he asked Senju Kagawa. Boy, have you ever experienced pain? Do you want to create a peaceful world? Chapter 100. Caring for the elderly is everyone's responsibility. Senju Kagamikawa never expected that Uchiha Madara would ask him such a question. When Uchiha Madara said this, his expression was very serious, even revealing a bit of divinity, and he seemed to become mysterious. Senju Kagawa thought about it carefully. Pain? Of course he had. Peace? Of course he wanted to create it. And now he has started to take action in his own world. So I answered seriously. In such a war-torn era, any ninja would experience pain. Peace? I naturally want to establish it as well. There is no one who does not desire peace, right? Uchiha Madara frowned, obviously dissatisfied with Senju Kagawa's answer. He continued to ask. Have you ever experienced the pain of someone important passing away? Senju Jingchuan was stunned. The sweetness and pain that he had deliberately buried deep in his heart suddenly came to his mind again. The pain of losing an important person? Of course he had experienced that. When he came to this strange world ignorantly, it was Senju Haruko who showed him the way, gave him warmth, and gave him the love of a mother. Later, it was his genius brother Senju Kawarama who taught him swordsmanship and allowed him to protect himself, and finally, it was his brother Senju Itama who was gentle, shy, introverted, but always treated him well. These are his closest relatives and important people to him. Senju Jingchuan now only felt a sharp pain in his heart. However, the Uchiha Madara in front of him continued to exaggerate and try to stir up his sad memories. When the wounds in one's heart are ruthlessly exposed like this, even someone like Senju Kagawa would feel very uncomfortable and unhappy. Senju Jingchuan was a little angry. He didn't know why Uchiha Madara asked this, but he was really sad now. Senju Kagamakuwa was so angry that his cheeks turned red, and the corners of his eyes were also stained red. He frowned and looked at Uchiha Madara. Senju Kagamakuwa thought that he looked very imposing now, enough to make Uchiha Madara realize how angry he was. Little did he know that when Uchiha Madara saw Senju Kagamakuwa in front of him, he just felt that he was like a child throwing a tantrum. No, just a child. Uchiha Madara thought that Senju Kagamakuwa was a bit like Uchiha Izuna. Uchiha Madara suddenly felt a little reluctant to continue the next topic. Judging from Senju Kagamakuwa's performance, the question already had an answer. In fact, Uchiha Madara didn't even need to ask this question. If Senju Kagawa was his younger brother, he would definitely have experienced the pain of losing his mother and several brothers. Even if not, Senju Kagawa's pair of Mangekyo Sharingan can prove that he has experienced such pain. He was the first to look away and stopped questioning Senju Jingchuan. Uchiha Madara, I suddenly felt guilty. Senju Kagamakuwa also felt deflated when he saw Uchiha Madara like this. From his point of view, the current Uchiha Madara is actually an old widower, yes, just like the old man in the nursing home next to the orphanage where he used to live. However, Uchiha Madara might be even more miserable than those old men. He has no one to accompany him except a few white zetsu. How lonely this is! Looking at such a fragile Uchiha Madara, Senju Kagamakuwa suddenly lost the strength to question. He sighed softly. Uchiha Madara originally thought that Senju Kagamakuwa would be angry and completely ignore him, but unexpectedly, Senju Kagamakuwa was now as depressed as a deflated ball. Uchiha Madara thought about it and decided to continue. Uchiha Madara, my conscience hurts a bit, but it doesn't stop me from fooling people. So, Uchiha Madara continued to ask. Boy, do you want to change all this? Qian Shao Jingchuan showed his half-moon eyes and replied helplessly. Oh, of course I do. This world is like this. Uchiha Madara's low voice rose again, not everything will go as you wish. The longer you live, the more you will realize that reality is filled with helplessness, pain and emptiness. It is difficult for people to change this fact. Senju Kagamakuwa did not interrupt Uchiha Madara, so Uchiha Madara continued to speak on his own. Listen carefully, where there is light, there must be shadows. If there is a concept of winner, there must be losers at the same time. If you have the selfish idea of maintaining peace, you will provoke war. If you want to protect, love will inevitably give rise to hatred. There is a causal relationship between them and they cannot be separated. This is reality. Senju Kagamakuwa remained unmoved. He felt helpless as he listened to Uchiha Madara's words. He had been thinking about Uchiha Madara living underground, doing nothing all day. Especially after he got older, Uchiha Madara's movements became increasingly difficult, so how would he kill his boring time? Well, now the answer was laid out before Senju Kagawa's eyes. Oh, it turns out that it was by thinking about philosophical questions. Could it be that because he thought too much about philosophy, Uchiha Madara became the big liar in front of him? Although what Uchiha Madara said made sense, for Kagamakuwa, who had been educated in Marxist philosophy since childhood, he only heard the bug in this sentence. I wonder if anyone will be brainwashed by this live show. Senju Kagamakuwa thought to himself while listening to Uchiha Madara's nonsense. Suddenly I realized that there was nothing wrong with what Uchiha Madara said, and it even made some sense. However, Senju Jingchuan, who has more than 20 years of experience, was able to spot the loophole in one go. Because, isn't the reverse also true? Where there is shadow, there must be light. Today's loser may not become tomorrow's winner. It is because of the existence of war that people try their best to maintain peace. Hatred exists, but not every love will lead to hatred. Isn't it too one-sided to think only in one direction? Light and darkness, love and hate, victory and defeat, war and peace. Aren't these two sides complementary to each other? Without the contrast of one, how can the other be revealed? If Senju Jingchuan was a real 5-year-old child at this time, and happened to have experienced pain, he might really be fooled. become angry and jealous of the world, and go down a dark path from then on, and become completely evil, right? So, what does this Uchiha Madara in front of him want? Provoke his resentment, and then resent the world? But does this do any good in creating peace? Could it be that the Uchiha Madara in front of him actually wants to destroy the world? Or does one simply have a middle school soul to say these things? Uchiha Madara noticed that Senju Kagawa was absent-minded. He narrowed his eyes and was about to say something, but he saw Senju Kagawa suddenly come back to his senses. His eyes became very firm, and then he clapped his hands and blew a rainbow fart. Brother Ban is absolutely right. You are worthy of being Brother Ban. Senju Kagamakuwa, no matter what Madara wants to do, you must praise him. Don't let Madara feel lonely.